welcome once again to the... Well, for some reason the camera's not available on... What the heck? On Skype? Well, that's kind of weird. Let's go over to the Skype where it is available. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway,
that's true of Facebook as well.
Yeah, it's...
Okay.
Yeah, so this is going up Facebook and YouTube. Anyway, this is episode 238 of Legion of Reason podcast, and it's the podcast where you don't have to thank God for saving you on an overdose of us. Did anybody get the reference?
Homeopathic?
No. I'll talk about it in a second. Anyway, so we have a lot of topics to talk about today. A lot of things in... what's the heck? I gotta find the list here. We got a bunch of stuff in Regressive Left Files. We have a bunch of stuff in Catholic Watch and Ion Islam. So, I got like 20 web pages up here that I'm going to be putting up. I just got to come back down to there it is. And there we go. So, in the American Theocracy Today, we have Jeff Sessions, who's made an announcement that he's going to create a religious liberty task force, which will ensure that the religious have the freedom to impose their beliefs on everybody else by crushing them under their jackboots. Catholic Watch, a papal theologian claims contraception fuels violence against women. Interesting. I didn't know there was a connection. Like, apparently, contraception causes... there was no violence against women before contraception, right? Anyway, there's a contributor to the Catholic News Agency, one J.D. Flynn, and he ruminates on what could happen to the newly disgraced former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, an American archbishop, who has resigned amidst allegations of sexual molestation, and shows he just doesn't get the new reality surrounding children and how they interact with the clergy, or should. Catholic hospital administrations in Ireland, they vow to defy Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, his edict that all hospitals receiving public funds must provide abortion services. I'm going to make some popcorn and sit back and watch. I hope that he does what I think he's going to do. In the Regressive Left Files, I love this. Alberta man changes gender on all of his government IDs so he can get cheaper car insurance. That's...
interesting.
I'm not worthy.
Yes. Almost better than the colander, huh?
Yeah, that's just awesome. I love it. And recently, last weekend, Jordan Peterson was in town, and there was an open letter to try and get him deplatformed by the Arts Commons, and the Arts Commons told these people, get lost. Yay. Finally, somebody stands up to these people and calls the bluff. They only hold as much power as people allow them to hold. Ion Islam SEG is kind of a new title for it. We've kind of been doing it for a while. In Pakistan, there was a parliamentary candidate named Jabran Nasir, and he refused in a public forum to declare what his religion was on the grounds that it is irrelevant. And I totally agree, it is irrelevant. And that was, of course, met with angry mobs. That's kind of rather Islamic. There's also a few other things we haven't talked about. For instance, the news today or yesterday of Saudi Arabia kicking out the Canadian ambassador over a tweet by a foreign affairs minister. And I stand behind government on this 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. So, anyway, how's everybody
It's warm, but not too warm in my place.
Yeah, we had this hailstorm last week with larger than golf ball hail. It was quite the
Destructive.
It was very destructive.
Your yard looked horrible after.
The trees were, lost a lot of leaves just from the hail. There was one of those Rubbermaid deck boxes, and the lid looked like Swiss cheese. It was just going right through. Tum 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 tum.
I didn't even get it here.
Yeah, it was very localized.
Well, I went to my parents' place, and once I drove, I don't know, halfway there. It's about a 7-minute drive. Then I saw the destruction in Thorncliffe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, usually
it wasn't it wasn't golf ball size though.
Yeah, this is bigger than golf ball. My windshield is not totally destroyed, but it's pretty bad. My car looks like a golf ball. It's so dimpled. So we'll see what happens with the insurance. It's interesting because the insurance companies pay pilots to fly over clouds and seed them, and the idea is that it reduces the size of hail. But these storms were popping up randomly, and they missed one. So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the insurance company actually pays for this because it reduces, in theory,
claims,
it'll reduce claims. So getting back to the original statement, the one I made, I'll go over to, what the heck is this? I've never heard of this person before, Demi Lovato. Have you heard of her?
No, I'm just trying to catch up on the tabs and stuff here too.
Yeah. She overdosed. She's a pop singer who overdosed on drugs.
Okay.
And then she says, I want to thank God for keeping me alive and well.
Oh, well.
I mean, people don't think about the implications of what they're saying. Like, what does that mean for all the people who didn't survive an overdose and weren't resuscitated? Did God say, screw those ones, but you're special?
Well, yeah, and like if I were a medical professional, I might like a little bit of, thanks.
Yeah,
exactly. First responders should get the thanks, and as well as the doctors and nurses in the emergency room where she was taken.
Well, I know when I had breast cancer, it wasn't just the immediate, it was all the researchers and all the other survivors prior to me, and there's just this huge chain of humans to be grateful to, right?
But no, she goes straight to God. It's just another one. People think this is, oh wow, what a wonderful thing to say, and I'm like, no, it's a horrible thing to say.
Yeah.
I see it as God must be commandeering people as puppets, and then to me it's then suggesting these people are just puppets of God or something and have
flies
no mind of their own or anything.
Yeah, it's just it just makes me want to barf when I see this kind of thing on the news. And we see it all too often. People have got to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe thank the right people, the ones that actually we can demonstrate did something, that got it back. And
I was even thinking, people who donate to, charities or into, researching and stuff like that. Like, there's just so many people to thank. Like, why would you even? I don't know. It's just unthinkable to me.
Save it for the Academy Awards. Like when. 20-minute list of names of people to thank, which is a lot better than just saying, well, I thank God for my acting ability. Whatever,
Well, I'm not offended, but it's just like, I'm like,
it's an eye-rolling thing, right?
Yeah,
you just roll your eyes and, oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's an eye roller, yeah.
And at some point, we hear it so often that you can't, you drive yourself nuts if you went ballistic every time somebody says it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be a very happy person.
Well, I know, this doesn't bother me, but Trump had, I don't know, practically a sermon for one of his speeches, and it made me sick.
Oh, you actually
makes me wonder who prepared it for him.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't hear that from a politician here in Canada because people would mock them, right? and it would be very distasteful for
know.
that kind of thing, you know. Well, I think mostly. Sure, there's a few wingnuts, but I think for the most part we're still pretty secular.
Yeah.
Despite
well, we have the Trump wannabe in Ontario now, Doug Ford.
Yeah.
Brother of Coke Fiend, the late Rob Ford. I don't get it. How did that happen?
Well, and Andrew Scheer, which I think is the leader of the federal Conservative Party, isn't he the same way now? It's getting worse. These candidates that are getting into the Conservative Party as the leaders it's starting to really scare me.
Yeah, they do it because it works. You know, if we just say no, you can't do that collectively. Then maybe we can nip it in the bud. But
he got elected. Ford got elected.
He got elected. There was another confluence of factors that came together. A perfect storm. Perfect shit storm.
Including the mess that the Liberals made. Apparently it was so horrible, but now it's going to get worse, guys. Buckle up.
Yeah, dollar beer. Buck a beer. Awesome.
Oh, but you can't have like cheaper social services though. Like the idea of that pilot project was to give people money to spend on housing and stuff instead of providing cheap housing that you have to administer. It's very costly to administer housing and all this stuff rather than giving them a living wage.
Well, they can just get a job.
Or even, from what I understand with the Utah project, and there's been similar ones, like make, modest housing, say, got a room and that locks and access to a shared bathroom or something like that, and, shower, that ends up being less expensive than having people on the streets, right?
Yeah, he's also
that's for the homeless. These people weren't homeless, though. These people just had low wages and had disabilities. They weren't homeless.
Okay, that's what you mean. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Didn't he also already cancel safe injection sites?
Well,
I mean, I understand why people would be against them.
Probably. That costs money.
But, it costs money, of course. But
but it costs more money not to have them.
Yeah, exactly. It's, you're basically, you're killing people if you don't, because they're going to inject themselves with drugs anyway.
Yeah, and they're going to end up in the hospital, and that's, more expensive than an injection site where they're safely monitored and prevent that kind of thing in the first place, right?
Yeah, it's politically it gets more traction if you're against them than for them.
Yeah.
For some weird reason, even detox would be so beneficial, but there's not even enough of that in Alberta.
Yeah. More than there was, because we have a centrist government here in Alberta now.
Red Deer still doesn't have it, because you have to also work with the city, and the city's like, oh, we don't need that stuff here in Red Deer.
Well, nobody wants it in their backyard.
Yeah.
Instead, all the homeless people are in our backyards.
Yeah, literally.
Like under trees, under vehicles, under... they're everywhere here now. You can't turn around and not bump into one.
Yeah, here along Memorial Drive, there's a lot of sort of, makeshift campsites and, that kind of thing, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather these people were in detox. Like the one guy who was trying to argue with me when I was trying to get away from his cigarette smoke, he's like, I'm just trying to get my life back on track. Well, it'd be easier if the poor guy had a place to sleep rather than under the tree where he was.
Yeah. And not all of them are on drugs. Some people just have a really crappy story.
Well, this guy reeked of alcohol, so...
Well, you would be shocked at the amount of money a homeless person makes per year.
Huh.
You would be absolutely
Actually, you know what? There's a couple of guys, well, I haven't seen Ro for probably a year or two now, but there's a couple of guys that would go, like, they would work, 9 to 5 or whatever, collecting bottles, and they did have a place, and they treated it like a full-time job.
Yeah, well, the guys I see getting money, they're not homeless. They're the guys that live in, like, disabled places, but they get out every day and they still ask for money everywhere you go. These guys are not homeless, the ones that are asking for money that are every day there. So,
well, there was a guy here in Sunnyside that did have a place, and he was on some limited pension, and he had this, old dog that probably needed to be put down, frankly. I think that thing was really suffering. So sometimes toward the end of the month, he'd just run out of money and hang out by Safeway, right? So, of course, I'm going to buy some dog food for the dog, and I bought him a sandwich or something from time to time, right? So, but, he was perfectly sober. He just ran out of money sometimes. Not every month, but some months, around the 28th or whatever. Sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, those guys I don't mind. I would prefer they have a living wage so that they don't have to be there and begging for money, which is not very dignified if you'd rather not. And Ontario was trying that pilot project for exactly those kinds of people. They weren't.
Right. Let's move on to I guess this segment.
Our first topic.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Let me see something here. Is it going to go? My computer's very slow. It'll go in a second. Eventually.
You have a lot running on it right now.
Yeah, I do.
The Regressive Left Files.
Yay, it worked without crashing. Anyway, this is what are we on here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Whoop. Wrong thing. This is Jordan Peterson, who was here last weekend. A letter, an open letter, and we know some signatories to this letter that had a problem with I gotta find it now. Oh, I don't think I have it up here. It's actually pretty important. Let me get this letter up here.
I'm looking forward to.
There we go. Open letter to Arts Commons, re Jordan Peterson. I got to read this because it's just hilarious. Let's see. Okay.
Who wrote it?
I don't know who actually wrote it, but yeah.
Multiple signatories, anyway.
Listen to this and tell me this isn't inflammatory rhetoric. Quote here: the toxic and often violent rhetoric touted by Peterson, whose quasi-academic ideas are misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, and racist, wholly undermines the important work that our communities have been doing and continue to do in the vein of striving to support equality and productive action against things such as misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and racism. Members of our communities are actively attending, working, and presenting in Arts Commons, which raises concerns of safety during Peterson's event. What? Peterson's portfolio includes opposing Bill C-16. Well, yeah, I kind of do too. Which amends the Canadian Human Rights Act to include the right to freedom of gender. That's actually not what it says. You've always got the right to gender identity, your freedom of that, and gender expression. You always have the right of that. It's just that people are forcing others to use particular words, and that's the problem. Admitting these comments regarding Bill C-16 may be classified as hate speech under Canadian law, and I have a big problem with that. Espousing regressive ideas. This is ironic. Espousing regressive ideas of masculinity and fear of women's rights, which galvanize young men towards violent behavior towards women and minorities, speculating that... Who wrote this? I mean, you cannot say this examples? In a single breath. There's no way.
Yeah, I was going to say evidence, please.
Well, that too. I'm just thinking about the English. It's terrible. Speculating that feminists avoid criticizing Islam because they unconsciously long for masculine dominance.
Oh, God. What?
That's a quote of Peterson, apparently. And advocating that amicable divorce should not have been legalized in the 1960s. We are deeply disappointed that Arts Commons has made the unconscionable decision to support Peterson's values by virtue of hosting this talk as many of the arts. See, you can't say this in a single breath. If you can't do that, read it aloud to yourself, people. If you can't say something, a sentence in a single breath, it's too long. Okay, sorry.
I'm very guilty of producing very long sentences.
Yeah, my grammar Nazi, my inner grammar Nazi is going Sieg Heil. And artists working...
man, direct your criticisms to Dr. Randy Tyson. This time, and it's not me, right?
Sorry, I was watching Preacher last night. And artists working within your venue would readily balk at being associated with such ideas. That's a 3-line sentence. You've got to be kidding me. As Arts Commons continually hosts a broad and diverse intersection of audiences and artists, but not apparently speakers, we ask you to consider the impact of your decision to present this talk. The dangerous ideas that Peterson stands and advocates for mongers hatred and discrimination against many of our staff, volunteers, interns, board members, artists, and community members. Moreover, many of our organizations program spaces within Arts Commons. Many of our community members have worked with and within Arts Commons. Hosting Peterson's talk and by extension endorsing his ideas makes Arts Commons an unsafe place for many of us to be working in and with. That's a 4-line sentence, people. Arts Commons is incontrovertibly not an appropriate venue for this event. I love this. This is the part that I just find, I laugh. Often, Peterson and his followers claim that protesting him is akin to censorship, folding ideas of free speech into this conversation, a fundamental abuse of these ideas, which are what... How is it an abuse? Which are meant to protect, not be weaponized. I love this. The whole letter is to silence this guy, and they're complaining about him complaining about being silenced. I mean, good job.
Yeah, people that fight for freedom of speech, which is one of his major topics, are precisely fighting against the weaponization of exactly this kind of
These
letter.
are the ones that are weaponizing it.
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind. We are writing this letter.
Okay, since when did these words of this gentleman become dangerous?
Because words are violent, Twyla.
Yeah, words are violent.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it demeans the experiences of people who have suffered real violence. Right?
Thank you.
Put it into that same category. Give me a break. Stop saying that words are violence, because they are not. We are writing this letter to urge you to cancel this event or to work with the presenters to find an alternative venue. You know what? The Arts Commons just said, no, we respect diversity of opinion. Whoops, wrong one. And we value diversity, they said. And the I don't know if there was any protesters out front, don't care. And it was sold out at the Arts Commons downtown.
When was this talk, actually? I don't even know.
Well, a week ago, last Friday. So
okay.
It'd be,
okay.
Yeah. I think it was...
Seems to have gone by quietly.
Yeah.
Without violence.
It's just funny that people do not understand a very basic principle of PR. If you don't want somebody to be heard, just ignore it.
Yeah, the Streisand effect kind of thing, right? Yeah.
It really is. It's the same thing happened with it was just like Ricky Gervais when he did that stand-up comedy routine recently called Humanity. And I wasn't really going to watch it because I've never really been a fan of Ricky Gervais. I love his tweets, but not a big fan of his acting, and I kind of thought it would be in the same vein as the stuff he does. He's a little bit too dry. And then somebody said, he made a transphobic joke in there. Don't watch this. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I have to watch it. Thank you.
Exactly.
And it was damn funny.
And it's not because we agree with those kinds of things. It's because it's like, oh, now we're curious. I want to hear what people are saying that I disagree with just as much as I do with people. I want to hear people I disagree with more than I want to hear people I agree with.
Yeah. It was absolutely hilarious. I highly recommend people go on Netflix and watch it. Now they probably won't, because I'm very distrustful of really popular television programs, that kind of thing, because I didn't watch the first season of Twin Peaks way back when because of that, and I regretted it. But then again, nowadays it's easy to access those old TV shows, but you won't regret watching Humanity. It's really funny. And there's no transphobic joke in there. That's just, give me a break.
What did they mistake as a transphobic joke?
Well, he was dead naming Caitlyn Jenner.
Caitlyn?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was funny.
Jenner?
Yes.
Jenner can take it. Oh my God.
It's like he said in the routine. He says, it's like this person never had a history as being Bruce Jenner. Like, bullshit.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Come on.
Jenner,
he's like,
Jenner, if anything, will appreciate the shout out.
Well, yeah, I don't know, because he kind of, a lot of it was about his driving, or her driving, sorry.
Yeah, it brings attention to the person, so it's kind of like free advertising.
Well, that's true. As to say, no publicity is bad publicity, right?
Yeah.
Or even bad publicity is good publicity, whatever that.
And it wasn't that freaking bad.
And he was saying that somebody tweeted at him, well, why don't we have Caitlyn Jenner instead of you for the Oscars? And he's like, oh, sure, but just don't let her drive.
Terrible, yeah, but that's comedy, guys. Get over it.
Imagine if George Carlin.
It's so boring if you can't make jokes like that.
Well, that's the society that social justice regressors would have you live in.
Oh my God, they would die at the ones here then. In Red Deer, you want to see politically incorrect and the worst words you've ever heard?
Well,
show up at our it's at our bowling alley actually every Sunday night, and it's just, oh my God. Wow. I can't breathe when they're done.
Just imagine how much George Carlin and Christopher Hitchens are like turning over in their graves.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, Carlin did rape joke just to show that rape jokes can be funny.
Yeah.
It was.
Actually, quite a long time ago, you posted something on on our page, and somebody got all upset, and started PMing me and saying, rape jokes, how would you feel if somebody, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, if you were a rape victim? And I said, you know what? I might just very well have to deal with that with humor, because that's how I deal with a lot of things that are shitty in my life, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't tell me about this. This is fun.
Huh?
You didn't tell me about this.
Well, I think I don't know if you, this is quite a while ago, but I probably did at the time, but it was, I don't
remember, sorry. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe I didn't, but I think you'd already toasted them off with the page or whatever. So, yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, different people have different ways of coping with, trauma in their lives. And for some people, they have a bent in whatever sense of humor, and that's kind of how my family's always operated. And bloody hell, if there's one thing I could say, the best gift you can give your child is a sense of humor, because it'll get you through all kinds of things. Whereas,
Well, from a male perspective, women are always interested in men that have a sense of humor, a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And it's because it's a proxy for intelligence. Intelligent people are funnier people, which means I must.
I need to tell my son this.
What's that?
I need to tell my son. He has made jokes on his Facebook and
flew over everybody's head.
Yeah.
Or was the wrong kind of jokes.
Well, it was a bit of a rape joke, and his cousin got really upset at him because being female, and
I guess we're not going there.
Yeah, I guess we need to have that conversation, right? Fair.
Moving on. Alberta man changes gender on government IDs for cheaper car insurance. And we hear a lot about the pink tax.
Yep.
The whole razor blade thing. Where did it go? There we go.
I have a question about how that phrase is being interpreted, because I heard something the other day where people assume that the pink tax means that things are branded pink for women, which means blah blah blah, different printing costs and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I thought of the pink tax like, we have pink collar jobs and blue collar jobs and white collar jobs. I thought pink was in
pink collar job.
That. Yeah.
What's a pink collar job?
Secretarial or clerical kind of thing, right?
All right.
Well, I noticed the pink tax when it came to my kids. My son's clothing was far cheaper than when I had my daughter. Everything for my daughter seemed more expensive, from shoes to toys to clothes.
Buy them boys' clothes.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to me, and I got beat up every day, so I couldn't do it.
Okay. I don't know what to tell you, but
it's
when
hard,
you're an adult, you can.
Women don't necessarily fit boys' clothes once they get past a certain age, because.
Well, now she knows how to stick up for herself. She's not 5, and she will wear boys' clothes. So.
I used to too. My favorite pair of jeans when I was a teenager were boys' jeans.
Yeah. Well, I had my brother's hand-me-downs, and they looked like they were from the 60s, so I looked like. And they were worn, so I actually looked like I had they were bulky in the wrong spot. So I got beat up for a number of reasons for being poor. So, and one of them was ugly clothes.
Well, yeah, I think we're talking about in adulthood. So I was watching this one video that this woman was showing, the blue, which is for razors, which were for men, and pink razors for women. And I was like, if there's no difference and there's a price difference, just get the damn blue one.
That's what this guy's doing with his... But the thing is, he doesn't put it in perspective that he gets so many things cheaper for being a man. There isn't a pink tax for men, but it's blatantly obvious when it's insurance.
Okay,
so
when it's haircuts,
he's a little fed up.
I'm not going to find much sympathy for women. I mean... I don't have.
Well, when it comes to razors, when we can choose the blue ones,
it's quite a bit different to cut my hair than it is to cut and style a woman's hair.
That's true.
Yes, but then like dry cleaning, a shirt's a freaking shirt, right? A skirt's a piece of clothing, just like a jacket or a pair of pants, right?
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. It's a real thing for sure.
Yeah, but it isn't $1,100.
Men can get nice tailored clothes, but.
Well, I'm sure men pay for tailoring.
Yeah, you do.
They can, and they can get really nice suits and stuff. But I find if you find a girl's pair of pants and a guy's pair of pants and they're Levi's, the girls is still more expensive unless you manage to find it on sale.
Hey, but this guy saved $1,100 on his insurance.
Wow, I didn't know.
A year?
That's a year. Tax,
that's a
baby.
Lot. That is a lot.
That's a huge amount.
Well, when you can quantify it like that, but if I spend $100 more for clothing a month than a guy does, that's $1,200. So,
yeah.
But it's
not the price difference though.
It's so obvious with insurance how much. You can easily track that. It's not like, this pair of shoes versus that pair of shoes or that pair of pants.
He was paying before.
It's easily, you can see the difference.
Yeah, it's right away. It's instantaneous. And I don't think that the insurance company can do a damn thing about it.
No, there's no law against that right now.
He's legally a female, gender identified as a female. I wonder what...
he still lives as a man. There's nothing illegal about that right now.
Hope the guy's not a football player or something.
And there shouldn't be.
I don't think it would matter.
Illegal about that. I don't think there should be anything illegal about that. But somebody's taking advantage of the system, right?
It's working the system.
Yeah,
that's perfectly legitimate.
Yeah. So they might as well just give up and charge us all the same insurance now, which could balance out if women pay a little more and men pay a little less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men pay a lot more.
So then, but when you what's the science called? Actuarianism?
Yeah, it's an actuary.
What's it?
It's an actuary.
Pardon me?
Yeah, the person who works with stats to determine.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an actuary.
So there's all kinds of other factors like your age and whether you're married or not and
accidents.
But it's a
risk.
predictor, not you. It doesn't have anything to do with your own personal driving record.
Yes,
it's a predictor.
I remember seeing a story several years ago about somebody who had gone like 1,000,000 miles, driving was their job essentially. They'd gone 1,000,000 miles accident-free, and they jacked that person's insurance up because they were statistically, ready to have an accident.
Oh my God. Okay, that's
crazy.
Yeah.
That's a logic fallacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a gambler says, I'm due to win. I'm due to win.
Yes, exactly.
No, you're not. Yeah. You're not due anything. In fact, it's all stacked against you.
Statistics actually say no, you're not due for anything.
Yeah. There is
you
such
don't have a better chance of winning.
It's just an anomaly, right? How many people make 1,000,000 accident-free miles? Probably not a lot. Yeah. So there's a glitch in, I guess, metrics, I suppose, right?
He's probably the guy that I'm giving the finger on the street, the road. Oh, you bastard, get out, get a move on.
Thing is, he's proven, the evidence says he's less likely to get into an accident after driving that long.
There's such a thing as regression to the mean, right? Like,
of course, yeah.
Like when you flip a bunch of coins and it will always, over large samples, it'll go towards 50-50, right?
Yeah.
So if you got a run of heads, there is kind of an argument to be said, knowing that the mean is always going to be a particular value, which is 0.5 for either heads or tails. Then you kind of have an argument that over the long haul, I'm due to have a head now. But
it's a legit argument.
But it's not
for that. But not for this poor driver who's proven safety. Yeah. Like he's proven that he's a safe driver. You don't punish people for being safe.
No, they charge you for everything. Any way, by hook or by crook. If they can make a buck, they'll do it. So you got a bad record, you pay more. You got a really, really clean record for, you've been driving a ridiculous amount, you pay for it. It's crazy. We need a better system.
Yeah.
And this proves it too. This particular case actually proves that.
Yeah. But it proves that there's something really rotten about the whole thing. Yeah. It's stinking, and somebody just worked the system, and I'm not worthy. Good for him.
Like I said, it's kind of like the colander thing, right?
Yeah, it's even better actually, because it's a real dollar value. I mean, it made him money. So, with today, the whole thing with gender fluidity, which I don't even subscribe to at all, but the government seems to. Well, you know what? This is exactly what you deserve. This is the chickens coming home to roost, and it's an unintended but wholly predictable consequence.
Yeah, I have no problem with I have no problem with the basic concept of gender fluidity and all this kind of stuff, right? But again, it's just a loophole in the system, and there's always been loopholes in the system for numbers and numbers of reasons. So,
and
this guy is not doing anything illegal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Too bad it worked for him. Good. Crazy. Anyway,
it does open up the floodgates, so doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, maybe because.
It wouldn't be to my benefit to identify as a man to get cheaper insurance,
sure.
But
But if you want to wear men's clothing, it might be cheaper.
Yeah, if I want to go to the dry cleaners and
Can call you Ron.
Yeah. Well, you can call me Chris. It's a gender neutral term.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Here's something.
Remember that skit from Saturday Night Live with Chris and Pat?
Oh, yeah. Pat.
That would never fly today.
Which is too bad.
Yeah. It's cute.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to move on to the trigger warning thing. You and I disagree on this, Chris. I believe that life doesn't come with trigger warnings, and I don't believe that exceptions should be made on the basis of that. And if you're not really ready to go to university, I'm with Dawkins on this. University is not for everyone. But anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. We'll talk about it after we proceed here, I guess.
Yeah. So there was an actual study done at a group in Harvard. I'm going to bring that up again. Yeah. So it's published in the Journal of Behavior Therapy and Experimental Psychiatry. The title of the paper is Trigger Warning, Empirical Evidence Ahead. I love that title. And they took a group of people, they randomly assigned online participants to receive, they had 133 participants in the receiving a trigger warning, and 137 that didn't get a trigger warning prior to reading literary passages that varied in potentially disturbing content. And in the results, we have participants in the trigger warning group believed themselves and people in general to be more emotionally vulnerable if they were to experience trauma. Participants receiving warnings reported greater anxiety in response to reading potentially distressing passages, but only if they believe that words can cause harm. Goes back to what we were saying a little earlier. Warnings did not affect participants' implicit self-identification as vulnerable or subsequent anxiety response to less distressing content. And so the sample included only non-traumatized participants, so that's a limiting factor here.
Okay.
I guess that was probably to get it past an ethics committee. The observed effects may differ for a traumatized population.
And it's kind of a control. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it kind of gives an idea of what it's a low level response, right? So then when they are given a trigger warning, it's like, I'm going to hit you, but I'm not going to tell you when.
So you're going to wait for it.
Instead of just punching you.
So I guess the lack of a comparison group that has been traumatized would be a critique of that study, even though it wouldn't get past ethics, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
There ought to be a comparison kind of.
Yeah,
it'd be nice if they were all traumatized.
They were all traumatized.
Or, half and half, right?
We were traumatized in the birth canal.
You have this half, now you need the other half. The other half is still missing.
Yeah, so it gives it, but it shows that there's a reasonable expectation of an expected.
Similar.
Like it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be bad.
Yeah, increases anxiety.
Yeah, it's like when you don't believe words can hurt you, it's like, oh, big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty much what you would expect. But it was an interesting study. And they, like they said, that further research is needed, but they need to generalize the findings to populations which include those with trauma histories. So,
yeah.
But I love
it. And self-reporting is an issue as well, right?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. But the least trustworthy evidence, but sometimes you cannot get around it.
I don't doubt that, their findings are accurate, or, well, I shouldn't say accurate, but that they're, legitimate, I suppose, right? But I just think that the word trigger warning has been so abused over the years that anything's a trigger now, right? If you'd done the same study 20 years ago, and people, you know, were told, okay, we're going to be lecturing about this, and as long as it didn't have, you know, like if you're studying law, obviously you shouldn't miss a lecture about rape and that kind of thing. But if you're studying, I don't know, poetry,
group advocates, by the way?
You're gonna, you know, like, okay, if your professor says to you, okay, hey, you don't have to attend this one, but here's an alternative reading or whatever the hell, right? I think that's fine, right? But
I don't believe in enabling bad behavior.
What's that?
I don't believe in enabling harmful behavior.
Well, I also don't believe in meddling in somebody's psychological, you know, whatever, if I'm not a freaking psychologist myself, right?
So you would have had a problem with the prison experiment, right?
What's a prison experiment?
The Stanford prison experiment.
Remind me.
They actually made a movie out of this. They had two groups of students, and one was prison guards and one was prisoners. And the level of abuse that the prisoners took from the prison guards was just completely, like, horrifying.
So, well, that would never pass ethics, because
not anymore.
I know what you're talking about now, and they've done, you know, similar kind of experiments with kids. You know, the kids that have, I don't know, brown eyes are in charge today, and then the kids that have, I don't know, non-brown eyes are, and
it's been a similar,
you know, finding, right? No, tribalism. It's tribalism.
We weren't talking. It's Lord of the Rings. Not Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Flies. There we go.
Yeah.
Kind of a difference between those two things. They would never do it with, like, school students. These were university students. So,
well, I think the brown eye whatever experiment was on elementary school kids, actually, but of course, again, that would never fly today, right?
That was nowhere near.
It's a long time, maybe 70s or something like that, right?
I can't remember. I think this one was in the 80s, but it was just horrific.
I know what you're talking about now, but yeah, I've heard a number of these kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, the other thing to consider when you have traumatized people, then you have to also put them in groups of how long was the trauma, like how long ago, what have they done to deal with it, have they had therapy or an effective treatment, and then there's so many variables when it comes to trauma.
Yeah. That could, well, of course, if somebody had like a car accident and maybe they had, I don't know, a concussion or something like that, I'm going to give them special leeway as an instructor and, you know, help them. And, you know, it's a physical injury or you've got some sort of disability. So I see no reason why we ought to discriminate against people who have suffered trauma if they're willing to put in the work. And, you know, we can excuse them from something that is going to invoke that trauma, as long as it doesn't have a bearing on their outcome of their education, then what the hell?
Yeah. Seems to be like,
don't be a dick.
It's kind of a personal issue almost. You have to deal with that on a case-by-case basis almost.
Exactly, yeah.
But anything can be a trigger. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay? One psychiatrist wrote about a trauma victim that he treated who actually suffered horrific torture. And the torturers were putting a blank piece of paper in front of her to sign so that they could write whatever they wanted down as a confession. And guess what the trigger is? A white piece of paper.
Of course.
How do you trigger warn against that? It's just not possible. You cannot possibly
warn against everything.
Yeah, you can't. It's just not possible.
Well, of course not. But the major controversial topics that might... I mean, we're required to do pretty comprehensive course outlines too, right?
Yeah.
So, I think, I don't know, I mean, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I got a paper cut last week, or somebody was mad spreading on the bus, and I'm really, like, triggered by that, I'd be like, no, you gotta, I'm sorry, I'm not going to excuse you from, you know, the lecture or whatever, right? But, you know, I got raped, 3 weeks ago, and they've been in university for a year and a half. Well, yeah, you're going to give them a pass, obviously. Yeah. Otherwise, it would be straight up discrimination.
How do you know? They're not going. Nobody's going to come up and talk about this.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they do. Sometimes in private.
And if you don't?
No.
And if you don't? No, that'd be incredibly rare. I don't believe that people would.
I think they would.
And if they don't, what do? You can't.
Students,
you can't have a trigger warning. if you've suffered trauma and you have a pretty good idea already before you came into before you even started the semester that this was coming.
Yeah, it's different.
Sure, but if there's just one lecture and it's going to be controversial, okay, give them a pass for that one lecture and give them an alternative assignment. You know, if they register for classes about nothing but what they
what if it's rape law?
What they suffer from trauma? Yeah, exactly.
What if it's rape law?
And what do you mean? What if it's rape?
What if it's rape law? It's a law school.
Well, yes, exactly. Then you have
that's different.
Yeah, you have to be committed to that.
Nope.
You know, I'm sorry, I wouldn't give a student a pass if they
absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's
so, like I said, if it's a class on poetry or something like that, and they just want to skip that one and do something else, that's fine. Or I don't know. I see no reason why this will come up in a chemistry class or something like that. But,
no, I know. Yeah, exactly. But it'd be in the humanities, but I mean,
just case by case.
I mean, if the course is erotic literature.
What's up?
If the course is erotic literature, it might be kind of like, yeah, you're not getting a pass.
Well, if you signed up for something that blatant, then you got to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, but erotica isn't rape.
No.
Yeah.
What?
It can be. It can be.
Half of Harlequin romance novels.
I don't know. I've never read one.
I don't know. I've never read one either.
But yeah, that's an issue. Like that's a study of a feminist study. Back in the day, they used to study Harlequin romances and that kind of thing, right?
Oh
and
God,
I guess a lot of women actually do have rape fantasies and that kind of thing, right?
Of course they do.
Right?
Of course they do.
So, yeah.
So do men.
I guess,
Well, if they've never been raped, then how would they know how they would actually feel, and then they could have a rape fantasy? But trust me, if you've been raped,
Yeah.
How did we get on I did it, didn't I? I'm the one who brought up Harlequin romance.
Are you mansplaining to us, Randy?
Yeah, I'm going to mansplain you why you shouldn't read that shit.
I can't stand romance novels myself. They're so basic and so.
Yeah, they're
really. I've never read them, but I also don't like things with happy endings either. I like the dark side, right?
Yeah. Give me something with depth, not his teeth look nice.
Yeah.
The better to bite you with, my dear.
This one novel I tried reading as a teenager, there was this really popular, they were like twins. It was kind of like Harlequin romance for teenagers, and it went on and on about the stupid gap in his teeth and how cute it was. It was like, ugh.
Hey, have either of you read 50 Shades of Grey?
No.
I tried. I can't do it. It's so stupid.
I've never even tried. I've never seen the movie. I
have no desire to.
Give a rat's ass, but
yeah. Basically, if the guy wasn't a millionaire, it would just be trash.
Yeah, exactly. It would be some homeless guy.
It's just stupid.
Yeah.
Stock characters, no depth, no storyline. It's just. So I got through a few pages and then tried in the middle a bit and then tried at the end a bit. Didn't get better anyway along, so.
Yeah, I tend not to read fiction to begin with. I do read some, mostly crime.
Same, yeah.
I like Michael Connelly.
I'm reading Game of Thrones series.
Oh, I tried reading that. It is the most boring thing I've ever read.
I think you have to get past the first 2 books.
Oh, forget it. You have to get past. If I can't get hooked in the first, 50 pages, I just talk.
Yeah, the first 50 pages are pretty boring.
So it doesn't hook me. I'm not interested. It's the same with. I know I'm going to get hell for this, but Firefly. I gave it 3 episodes.
The book?
No.
The series. Okay.
I'm sorry. This is the worst casting I've ever seen in my life. Nathan Fillion's supposed to be some war hero. There's not a scratch on him. Like, give me a break.
It's Superman.
I love Nathan Fillion, but that was just the wrong role. It didn't work for me.
Oh, some of my friends would have your head for that.
I know. But that's just me. I just couldn't get past the crappy casting.
Well, if you want to watch the last episode, someone dies.
Horribly?
Horribly.
What's that?
It's a horrible death.
Okay.
You should watch the last episode.
I'll just have to watch that part of it. That's
yeah.
it.
What is that called when you give away a movie plot or whatever?
I didn't say who.
Yeah. I know.
Since he doesn't like the characters, watching one of them die might be a little sad.
Spoiler alert. There's a trigger warning right there.
Spoiler alert! Billy, and I'm sorry.
The best science fiction that has been on in the last, I don't know how long, is The Expanse. And Sci-Fi canceled it, but it's being taken up by Hulu, which we don't get in Canada.
Well...
But Lucifer is going to be back on Netflix, so it's okay.
I can't watch Lucifer. I'm sorry, I tried.
Did you? Yeah.
Corny
some
sometimes.
episodes are better than others, and sometimes they don't move the story along. But I enjoyed it.
It's so corny.
But that's the whole point. It's a look at humanity from a god's point of view.
It's pretty funny.
I like that.
That part is funny.
So he doesn't understand, which is funny because he's been watching. He punishes evildoers, and you have to know how humans work. But I get it. I mean, it's
the whole thing with his psychiatrist kind of did me in. I'm like a brother.
That was funny.
She's like, what?
It's coming back though, but there's so little that's good on TV. Preacher's on right now, so it's only 3 episodes left for this season. I really enjoyed that one. Anyway, Kuwaiti blogger.
Should we start discussing some Catholics?
We still got the Kuwaiti blogger slammed for a racist post, and she actually, I gotta admit, she deserves it. She's an Instagram star. Let's see where it is. She's a beauty blogger, and she sparked outrage after complaining about new laws giving migrant workers better rights. I would say actually any rights, but anyway, has refused to apologize for her remarks, instead of accusing her critics of attacking Islam, the hijab, and Kuwait. So apparently has nothing. It's all about nationalism. Sandoz Al-Katan has attracted global condemnation since she posted a video to Instagram last week in which she expressed frustration at newly implemented changes to Kuwait's kafala system, which now mean Filipino migrant workers can keep their control of their own passports. Amazing.
I hope so.
They're slaves. They're basically slaves in Kuwait, and have the right to 4 days off a month. She was complaining. This woman is complaining that they get any day off.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
What a bitch!
I'm sorry. That smacks of privilege.
This is real privilege.
You think?
Here we go down the rabbit hole again.
Yep.
How can you have a?
She sounds a little overly privileged.
Yeah, just a wee bit. Well, Kuwaitis are filthy rich. Well, if you look at what's happening in Qatar, where they're going to have the World Cup, the next World Cup in 4 years' time, and I don't know what the death rate is now, but 5 migrant workers a week were dying, building stadiums and stuff. A week, 5 a week. That's crazy.
Okay, yeah,
that's crazy death rate.
There was an issue with that a few years back. I can't remember which country was that hosted the Olympics, but essentially the same thing, huh?
Wow.
People were dying, Russia? No, it wasn't Russia.
Seoul?
I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Here she says this: how can you have a servant at home who gets to keep their passport with them? If they ran away and went back to their country, who will refund me? What?
That is so cold.
This is slavery.
Yeah, really.
There's no other word for this.
Oh no, my servant escaped.
Yeah, she says, I don't want a Filipino maid anymore. Like, jeez. Do your own damn housework.
Good luck. Yeah.
Wow.
Twit. So,
there's this document called the UN Declaration of Human Rights. You might want to have a look.
Yeah. Or you might try some fucking empathy.
Or you can go to the head of the Human Rights Council at the United Nations, but that's Saudi Arabia.
Well, yes, that's true, but I still appeal to the document because, I know it's a shit show now, but there's good principles in that document,
These people are inhumane. I want to hurt people like that. I just want to take their clothes and scuff them in the ground and make them not eat for a week and give them bread and water and say, "How do you like it?" Sheesh.
Well, what are remember the TV shows that used to be you change places with somebody?
Yeah.
Oh, the boss. The boss is when they would go become a worker for a day, one of the employees.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. She said, keeping a domestic worker's passport is deemed an enslavement and racism by these people. Why judge me over keeping my worker's passport with the aim of ensuring my safety? These people express more outrage over my remarks than they have over humanitarian crises and massacres in Syria, Iraq, and Gaza. Are these humanitarian values? Well, that's a problem too, but we're talking about you right now.
Yeah.
That's a logical fallacy saying, "Oh, you care more about this than this." Bullshit.
What a bitch. That's all I gotta say. But that's probably
I don't swear very often, but oh my god.
You don't swear very often? Why not?
Not on here.
Oh, okay.
Why? There's nobody listening anyway. You just be swearing at us. Anyway,
that'll get me cussing.
So the whole thing about these new rights is, we'll get to that in a moment, was because a Filipino maid was murdered by her employers earlier this year. And that led to a diplomatic standoff. It's funny how these diplomatic standoffs are popping up with Islamic nations, huh? In which the Philippines demanded better rights for its 200,000 slaves living there. Wow.
Yeah.
That's just unreal.
And didn't the president of the Philippines say, no, we're not going to allow people to go there anymore or something like that in response to this, if I'm not mistaken?
Maybe. That could very well.
That guy's not a humanitarian, though, either, so I don't put much stock in anything he says.
Yeah. Still.
The ex-boxer. He's quite the piece of work, isn't he?
Yeah, he gets people murdered. He vilifies the media. You can't speak out in that country. You don't have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You get killed if you get accused of being a drug dealer, even if you're not.
Okay. That's just the thing, when you allow that kind of vigilante justice, all you have to do is point the finger at your neighbor because they've, pissed you off somehow, and whether they're actually guilty or not, it's irrelevant.
Yep, somebody will come along and kick them off.
Yeah, or kill them.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, so okay. Sorry.
All right, we're going to go off into the next seg, Iron Islam here. I'm just going to try this, see if it works. It's coming. Come on. Okay, there we go. The stinger was shorter than the delay that I need a faster computer. Anyway, I guess people have heard about what happened yesterday after a tweet by Global Affairs Canada that read, "Canada is gravely concerned about additional arrests of civil society and women's rights activists in Saudi Arabia, including Samar Badawi." And if that name rings a bell, that is the sister of Raif Badawi, who is still languishing in a Saudi prison. It continues, "We urge the Saudi authorities to immediately release them and all other peaceful human rights activists." And
especially since they haven't been charged with anything.
Yeah, and so now the Saudis responded. They took offense to, what is it with Twitter these days? It's not
meddling.
Twitter is a policy dispensary, right? It's like, here, we're going to make our announcements via Twitter.
We're going to cause a global
well, it's just it's become a political tool.
Yeah, and but the way the Trump works, it is just terrible. I mean, everybody, financial markets actually go up and down depending on what he's tweeted today. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, just like news used to be that, and now it's Twitter. It's just, I guess, what do you call it, kind of organic way that this has grown.
Media.
Well, it's great for the politicians.
It's so many less words, too. That's what's crazy. It has huge impact, but you can only say it in so many words.
Yeah, well,
remember when we used to talk about sound bites, and now we're talking about 256 characters or whatever?
Well, it was originally 120.
Oh, sorry, 120.
And it was an art form. I understood that. It was brevity, how to be, how to... It's like writing a haiku. Right, you've only got a certain number of syllables and a couple and 5 lines. It's an art form. This is not meant for policy announcements. it's just ridiculous. But
and it's too free form. Like, you should have to pass this through your boss first. Maybe, of course, Trump doesn't have a boss, but this person did. But considering the content, I can't disagree with her, but maybe it could have been handled a bit better.
Yeah, diplomacy is a better...
It's dying.
Yeah, so regardless of your opinion, it is what it is, and it is becoming an important
we're at
form of
this
media,
place regardless. And so the Saudi Foreign Ministry called the use of the term immediately release in Canada's tweet unfortunate, reprehensible, and unacceptable in relations between states. And in response, now any future economic interactions are canceled. They're I think going to recall Saudi students from Canadian schools.
Yeah, they've already done that. They've sent out the message.
What else did they do?
Kicked out our ambassador, I believe.
Now that's really serious. Okay, over a tweet? Isn't this a little bit of an overreaction?
Yeah. That's just it. Like, a tweet could start a freaking war.
I think now we should cancel that arms deal.
Oh, yeah,
now as a pretense.
Oh, no, they're not going to cancel the arms deal. No.
Well, I understand why the arms deal... You can't cancel arms deals or any deal made by a previous government without really, really serious economic ramifications. If you're not going to honor them...
And the Saudis want that, so of course they're not going to cancel that.
But now... Well, no, they're not going to cancel. We might be justified now.
Yeah,
that'd be nice, actually.
It would be nice. I'd like to see that. That would hurt them. Okay, Canada is one of the largest arms exporters in the world.
Isn't that crazy?
And it is. I mean, everybody thinks we're all polite, but we're packing.
We'll make stuff and give it to you so you can beat each other up.
Well, at least the country's
packing. Kind of funny, actually.
And when I was in the military, here we are carrying these Fabrique Nationale rifles, which were god-awful heavy pieces of junk from Belgium. And yet we're one of the biggest arms exporters. I don't get it. That's
the double standards.
Pieces of junk from I don't know. Yeah, so there's been a whole shitstorm over a tweet, and I don't know what's going to happen. What Canada's response is going to be. It's going to be interesting.
Well, now it has to go to the higher ups. It didn't go through them, but now it does.
Well, now
did somebody not also send like a photo of a plane going into the CN Tower or something like that and threatening? I don't know.
Oh yeah, they've apologized for that.
Oh shit! Who did that?
They're like, I'm sorry, we're not actually going to drive airplanes through your buildings now, but
Who did that? Who posted that?
Jeez.
Who posted that?
That's symbolic, but the tweet, they took the tweet literally, but you can't take that literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so women's rights activists are being arrested, and they think that we get to interfere in your internal affairs. I'm like, okay, what would you...
You tweet shit. We'll see if we actually listen to it.
We actually do have women's rights here. Not perfect.
So
but
go ahead.
It's a hell of a lot better.
What the hell are they suggesting?
This backlog.
And you know what?
What?
If we receive international criticism, we actually pay attention.
Yeah.
And we don't
for the most
freak out like that. We wouldn't suddenly kick ambassadors out and everything else and recall students.
It's ridiculous. It's a total overreaction. And
yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, now you've done that. You've stepped in it. Now we're going to see. Like I said, I'd like to see them actually hurt them by canceling that arms deal. That would be great. And this is a wonderful pretense.
Write your letter to Trudeau or whoever.
It's too bad they didn't have a morals clause in the deal. But Harper is to blame.
Why would there be a clause like that?
Yeah.
Sorry, what kind of clause?
Morals clause.
Morals?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was made by the Conservatives.
Yeah. There's no morals there. No, they think they do. That's the thing. That's the,
Well, they had the higher ground, but they're not going to put a morals clause in there when it comes to, religions of other countries. You can do what you want.
Of course you don't put it in there. But anyway. Okay. So that's... What else we got? Right. There was an election recently in Pakistan, and there was a secular candidate, and whose name is Jabran Nasir, and he refused to declare his religion at a public forum, what his religious beliefs were. It sounds like it could be in the United States. I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. And he politely refused on the grounds that it is irrelevant, and it should be. It should be irrelevant.
Absolutely.
Nobody in Canada gets on their high horse and says, "Oh, I believe in God," blah blah blah. That doesn't happen.
Maybe not where you are, but some do. Have you seen the UCP?
They do it to an audience that's receptive to it. They would never say it to an interview. Not a chance.
Well, I'm just thinking of Harry Leather here.
Harry Leather, right? Ron McIver.
And how he spewed off about his religion, and people were just like, holy fuck, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, he was nuts, though. I mean, literally nuts.
Yeah. There's a lot of nuts in the UCP,
I was going to say, well, there's a lot of nuts in the U.S. that he would look like freaking Noam Chomsky.
He would be a shoo-in,
right?
I think that's a bit hyperbolic.
It is for sure, but you get my point, right? Like he's a complete nutter, but there's even nuttier nutters out there.
Yeah, he's not.
But when he speaks, people are just like, "What the fuck?"
Oh even I remember Nate Phelps. I was sitting with him in the audience, and we just looked at each other like, "What the hell is this?"
That's the first time I met you guys, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, the Shermer event. Yeah.
Oh my God! For those who don't know, that we had Michael Shermer was in town. It was very, very interesting. It was put on by the Humanist Association, and they had the mayoral candidates there. And after the talk, they had a forum with all the mayoral candidates, and well, you had one guy, Lord. John Lord, is his name? Anyway, he was talking about
the late John Lord.
Yes, the late.
Who was a very sweet, lovely person.
Yeah, great. But he also was saying all the that fluoridation was the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on mankind. That's a quote.
Yeah. No, I remember that, and I'm like, oh no, John, don't say that.
And we don't have fluoridation in Calgary anymore. So guess what's happening? Kids are getting cavities, and but then there was this other guy that you're talking about. What was his name? The nut job.
Larry Heather.
Harry Leather.
Harry Leather. Nice.
I think I brought that up before on
and he's talking about how he believes in Jesus, but he's not religious. I'm just like, what?
Wow.
And not at all. No, not religious. No, he just doesn't buy into organized religion. But I think, yeah, you're pretty religious.
Well, he showed up for that. Remember that thing we protested with? I can't remember his name. The one that we did the interview. Preacher? Yeah. What's his name again?
Artur Pawlowski.
Yeah.
Artur.
He was there.
Infamy.
He was there. Yeah. And he came up and shook his finger in my face, and the police were right there watching him.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. To anybody who doesn't know, he's a very anti-LGBT street preacher who basically peddles his anti-LGBT nonsense by handing sandwiches out to people.
That's Artur. Or Artur, I should say.
Yeah, Artur. Yeah, Artur.
But
his brother was a real piece of work, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole
was he the one that ripped the sign that got hauled off?
I don't know, I wasn't there yet.
Okay.
I don't think so. But he was...
Because, he was still there when we got there.
Okay. Yeah, he had a run-in with Nate Phillips, and they're both pretty big guys. I'm like, let's just watch this for... Come on, let's go.
Yeah, the cops were perking up a bit.
Yeah,
I don't think Nate would raise a finger.
No, I'm not sure he wouldn't, but he wouldn't back down either. So
no, but I think, in given a choice other than fight and flight kind of thing, you'll always take the higher ground, right?
Yeah.
What I found ironic is we're holding the no hate signs, and they're blabbering about how we hate.
Yeah, it's projection.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry Leather was trying to atheist shame me. That's why he was pointing his finger in my nose, and like I said, the cops were right there watching him. Hey, so good on Calgary.
You want to believe in your kooky beliefs? Fine, just don't give me problems about it.
Yeah, no kidding. Don't want to be
because
gay.
Because then we have a problem, and I'm not going to back down.
Yeah,
and that's why I do this. It's one of the reasons I do this. Because I refuse.
We gotta get more listeners. And I was thinking, like in summertime, it might be better to do it at 9.
Maybe, but bedtime for Bonzo is I could have trouble enough sleeping. Anyway, we got to move on. Where are we at? We're at. Well, who did Pakistan elect? A former cricket player.
Yeah.
And supporter of blasphemy laws. Great. Imran Khan. Or Khan. Khan! Yeah. I should have made a little video for that. But anyway, I might do that sometime. He kind of looks... not really... Doesn't really look that much like Ricardo Montalban, but...
I know where you're coming from.
This guy,
I get this pop culture reference. Yay for me!
Amazing, actually.
I know.
There's something he said down here. Let's see. Here it is. We will set an example of how the law is the same for everyone. If the West is ahead of us today, it is because their laws are not discriminatory. This will be our biggest guiding principle, except how is a blasphemy law anything but discriminatory?
Exactly. I want everybody here in North America who wants to shut down speakers to think about that and the implications globally of what you're doing.
And realize that you're the same. You got something in common with this guy.
Yeah. And,
don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
Just because someone's using their free speech.
We don't penalize it here, but elsewhere they do, and in severe ways. And so next time you want to shut down an event, you think about your right to free speech and what that means to you.
Yeah, when we went to Artur, we didn't ask for it to get shut down. We just put our voice in too. We didn't shut him down.
Yeah.
No, and not only do I think peaceful protests are appropriate, they're practically your civic duty, right?
Yeah.
But when you get violent and you start blowing horns and trying to shut down speakers, no, you sit there and you do your peaceful protest. You carry your signage, maybe hand out flyers at the talk or whatever. And if you want to, go in the Q&A and line up. That is that's your duty as that's your civic duty. You should do that. But the minute violence comes into play,
or the shutdown,
that's no longer valid protest.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to put that up there for a second. So that's who Pakistan elected, like a cricket player.
But
I mean, please, the U.S.
Well, you get the U.S., you get actors and
Reagan.
Has Canada ever had an actor, like a media person?
Media, maybe. Because some journalists become politicians and stuff. I'm not, sure, but I don't think ever an actor.
Minor politicians, but none of the prime ministers. I can't think of any. Trudeau was an actor.
Most of our prime ministers have actually had some kind of education beyond acting school.
Yeah. What's this guy's pedigree? It's not elitism to demand that your civil servants actually have competence.
Yeah. And knowledge about the world affairs.
Yeah. Well, even Reagan had, he was he headed the Screen Actors Guild, which kind of scares me a bit because when I think about that, I think of what's his name, the greatest actor in the world according to Team America. The guy plays. He does on Saturday Night Live. He does Trump imitation. What the hell's his name?
Oh, Alex Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin. Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah. It kind of scares me.
He's going out
tried to run for office, and I'm just like, maybe he's trying to pull a Reagan. I don't know, for a Democrat side. Who knows?
I can't see Baldwin.
Yeah, who are they going to run against Trump in 2020?
Oh my God!
God, don't go there.
Guy? The Rock or something like that?
Oh God! Don't. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm an atheist, but God help us all.
FSM help us all. He died. He rolled for our sins, Oh yeah. What else? Okay. I think we're done that seg. Oh, good. So we can go on to Catholic Watch. Let's go to Catholic.
By the way, awesome graphic job.
Yeah, I'm having fun making those.
Yeah.
I use Anime Studio, and it's a awesome tool. This is really being slow. Come on. So if anybody wants to buy me a new computer,
start a Patreon. What the hell?
I know. I can't justify that. I just don't agree with people who are. Nobody owes me anything. It's.
Yeah, but you're providing a service and a conversation, and why not? If people are willing to donate, people know what they're getting into. They're not, you're not screwing anybody over or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not lying.
We could split it 3 ways. That would be great.
Anyway, we're going to do Catholic Watch now, so we should be here in a second. Okay, come on. There we go. There we go.
It's now time for the Legion of Reasons Catholic Watch.
You guys can hear that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's pretty funny.
I should have checked before. So Catholic Watch, a whole bunch of stuff came down. Here's one. This came across my desk from the CBC. Sex abuse claim sparks lawsuit against Catholic diocese in Nova Scotia. So this is another old case from the 60s, and it's against the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Halifax-Yarmouth. His lawyer believes if certified by the Nova Scotia Supreme Court, the class action suit could eventually involve many more sex abuse claimants, and I don't doubt it. Considering the Mount Cashel thing, that was a terrible. I mean, anytime religion is allowed free reign to do whatever it wants. It creates. It doesn't. It can't be trusted to police itself. There's no oversight, and there should have been oversight with the residential schools in Canada, where
goodness.
Hundreds of children were.
Well, I think there was government oversight, but they were complacent. They were on the same page.
They're religious. Well, they can't be doing anything wrong. That kind of.
Well, I don't think even that. It's not like they give them free pass. I think they actually cooperated.
Could be, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yes, that's why we've issued apologies, and so, even Stephen Harper, right? That's why we've issued apologies, because the government was complacent, if not active.
But I don't know. I don't know if there was any actual evidence of complicity. But I don't know. Was there? Because I haven't seen it, but then I haven't really looked closely either.
I don't know, but I just kind of know it's. I don't know. I've always grown up with that understanding of what was going on, and
they have
maybe not what was going on, but like I said, I haven't said this, but tonight, but I have on the podcast previously. I went to school with whose older sisters and younger aunts or whatever had been sterilized involuntarily. Like this is part of my
that
so
was
I knew I knew the abuse
terrible.
that was going on. So how could the government not know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing with Cardinal Pell too, right? And other. McCarrick, Theodore McCarrick. Well, he's being accused of actually being a perpetrator. But Cardinal Pell had to know. I mean, if you've got 6 or 7% of your clerical, the guys with the collars are pedophiles, active pedophiles, there's no way you can't know. There's just no way.
Yeah, no shit.
Don't they just shift them around after they get accused?
Well, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
We don't know in Pell's case if that was true or not, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, it was so common that it had a name. It was called the system, and it was everywhere. It's a I don't understand why anybody's Catholic. It's certainly not a guarantor of good behavior being Catholic.
Yeah, but they think so.
Silly.
Yeah, but again, like you've said many times, Randy, Catholics are better than their religion.
Not the priests.
It's an identity. Well, no, I know. But when you say why would anybody identify as a Catholic? Because they don't identify with those horrible priests and stuff like that. They give a free pass, or
but they let them,
right?
Do it. They let
complacency. I don't think, and nobody would say, "Oh, hey, go ahead and rape my kid," right? Nobody would say that. But
when they find out, they do nothing.
Yeah, it's like I'll stay with the church regardless.
And we're going to talk about an even worse situation where there are lots of names that are of abuse victims. Anyway, there's a picture of George Epoch, who is the accused, and he's the victim, who is Douglas Champagne. His father abandoned the family in 1960, and a single mom, and his mom wanted him to join the church and become an altar boy because she thought it would be good for him. Oops. I think that's how a lot of this starts.
Oh, I cannot imagine being a parent
and finding out after the fact.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I can't imagine what I would do. Yeah.
And
it would be nice.
In 1962, Epoch, this is the claim, Epoch asked him to stay one day after the other boys left. Champagne says Epoch told him he loved him and sexually assaulted him in the garment room of the church and in Epoch's room at the priest's dormitory. So multiple times. And this went on for months, and other priests that lived at the residence looked at Douglas with a combination of disgust and sympathy. They should be trying to stop it.
What the hell?
They did not lift a finger to prevent the abuse that they knew or ought to have known was taking place. They knew damn well. This thing doesn't happen in a vacuum. Epoch was eventually transferred. There it is. But Champagne says Epoch continued to send him love letters. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
So if you still got them, I hope that they'd be a slam dunk. Champagne traveled around Canada and returned to Nova Scotia in 1972, but left because of the memories it brought up, and he now lives in BC. And he's sought counseling, of course, for the abuse that he suffered at the hands of somebody who was entrusted in a position of trust. Mm-hmm. And that makes it a much more serious crime too. I think we should remove the statute of limitations on crimes like this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's just not right.
Sounds reasonable to me.
And there's got to be others. I mean, not just in Halifax, Yarmouth, but wherever he was transferred to. And I'm sure they knew.
Yeah.
So I hope this goes forward. And
it says he died. Epoch died in 1986.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him in prison. I mean, he got off easy.
Yeah.
Die in prison. Oh well. In the U.S., U.S. bishop releases names of 71 clergy accused of abuse in, I think it's Pennsylvania. Harrisburg Bishop Ronald Gaynor has released information from the diocese's own internal investigation on, like we should trust these people to investigate themselves. I just don't understand this. Screw the church's legal system. They have no jurisdiction anywhere other than the Vatican.
Our legal system.
Well, they have their legal system. The canon law is what it's called. I do not understand this.
And they
deference.
bitch about Sharia law.
Yeah, this is a second type of law. No, this should be.
Should
be tried under
They
American
don't
law.
bitch about Sharia law, and that's exactly why they don't, because they have no grounds to stand on.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's
Americans do though.
Yeah, so.
But Americans do though. They have a double standard.
But I think sometimes as non-believers, we have to call the shit out because other religions won't call it out on each other.
Yeah.
Well, they're all doing the same shit. They're all doing the same shit.
Americans, the certain Americans will call out Sharia law, but there's no way in hell they would call out canon law.
Or even laws based on the Bible.
They're not presenting reasonable arguments. They're just fueled with hatred and Yeah, it's a different thing. They've been propagandized to, whatever the other, as opposed to actually presenting rational arguments.
Yeah. So Gaynor put out this list of 71 clergy, both dead and alive, that have been accused of abuse, and these accusations. The allegations are that they go back to 1947. Not all. It would be between now and 1947. And the name ban extends to any. There's a name ban on this, by the way. Extends to anyone who appears on the diocese list and has been accused of sexual misconduct, and also to any position of honor. What? In the diocese given those named. Let me read this again. The name ban extends to anyone who appears on the diocese list and has been accused of sexual misconduct. So those that have been accused of sexual misconduct. What? I don't understand this.
Yeah. Also to any position.
Something just happened upstairs. And it was very noisy. You probably didn't hear it. I hope you didn't hear it. It was very loud. But
I didn't hear it. What was it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It sounded like a disaster. I thought it was another hailstorm, actually. I'm triggered. Here's what Gaynor said. It is my most unwelcome yet necessary duty to visit a sorry chapter of the Diocese of Harrisburg's history. Okay, here we go again. Please, for the love of the flying spaghetti monster, one breath sentences. Okay, the one concerning the sexual abuse of minors, as has been the subject of much public discussion. The diocese has unfortunately at times been the home of men originally called to the service of God who, here we go.
For reasons unknown.
For reasons unknown and unfathomable, instead ignored that summons and turned to the pursuit of heinous personal ends. They were attracted to the clergy because they had access to children and they were in positions of power over them.
And there's no consequences.
Idiot.
And you know, when sexuality is shamed, you're repressed and you're going to do weird shit. You know, if these men were simply gay, and they didn't have the chance to, you know, I'm not going to defend pedophilia here, and I'm not even going to dare to go. I'm sorry, I'm not conflating the two in any way whatsoever.
Those letters, by the way, are address them to Christine.
Yeah, but you know, like if you're, I don't know, if they were allowed to marry and they were allowed to, you know, there'd still be pedophiles, just like there are, you know, sports teams and scouts and all kinds of stuff like that. Because, like you say, they're attracted to that profession. But probably, you know, if sexuality wasn't shamed, they would have felt comfortable being gay or marrying or whatever, right?
Well, I think they can't even masturbate when they're religious. That you can't even do. Like, come on.
Yeah, you know, about 40% of the world's priests are actually married secretly.
Yeah.
It's a huge number.
Well, if you can't masturbate, you might as well have a secret marriage.
But pedophiles are going to be pedophiles. That's all there is to it. And you know,
and that's a safe place for them to be pedophiles. It's a very safe place for pedophiles.
Yeah, that's what I'm. You know, again, no conflation there. But if you're a pedophile, what kind of work are you going to look for? What kind of, you know, position are you going to want to find yourself in? You're going to be a coach, you're going to be a scout leader, you're going to be a priest or some kind of religious figure, you know, or I don't know, any position of authority where you have access to children.
Yeah,
that's the kind of job you're going to seek out, essentially, right? So if there's disproportionate amounts of pedophiles in particular occupations or whatever you call them, that's why. Just like, you know, there's often people that are like attracted to authority that want to bully people around, and they end up in jobs like, I don't know, security or even some police, right?
I'm going to give props to this guy because he is releasing the names of 71 clergy and seminarians who
how many are dead, though?
Credibly, well, yeah, but still, credibly accused of abuse with a description of the alleged abuse ranging from indecent behavior to inappropriate communication with children. As he said, the information is not an assessment of guilt, but provides historic details of the accusation. So at least there's some semblance of openness here.
Or acknowledgement, but if 90% are dead, well...
But...
Still, I think that's a step in the right direction, and I agree with you, Randy.
I'm not going to, you know... But it just goes to the incredibly widespread problem that it was that Pope John Paul II ignored, because he thought, well, it was just an American problem, as if that's an excuse.
What? Yeah, no kidding.
You know, that was it. Him and Ratzinger, then Ratzinger. What did he call himself? Pope Benefit?
I can't remember now.
I can't remember. He's Pope.
I can see his face and his...
Pope Ratzinger. I just call him Pope Ratzinger. Yeah, I can see his face because it was just... Man, that guy is...
Uncle Fester.
He just looks evil. That's all there is. He just has the look. A lot of people made a big deal about him being, as a boy, a member of the Hitler Youth, but every kid in Germany...
Had to be.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a big deal about that. That's, you know... Anyway... So besides the Diocese of Harrisburg, the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Allentown, Scranton, Erie, and Greensburg are also, you know, in this. So it's ubiquitous. It was everywhere.
Yeah. Like I said before, over decades, if not millennia, what do you call it? When 100 years, kind of hundreds of years, centuries? And internationally, decades, if not centuries, of this pervasiveness throughout the globe.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
This is everywhere. Systematic. Well, you know, when we talk about systematic pedophilia, this is a system
truly institutionalized.
You know,
truly institutionalized.
Yeah.
Here's this makes sense of the thing that I was not understanding before. There was a name ban that was issued by the court, and this makes sense. It's protecting the identity of those that are challenging the release of this report, and that are actually being actively investigated, so that you can't. There's no perceived impropriety in terms of charging any of the anybody for these crimes.
Yeah, innocent until proven guilty. I suppose would be the.
So, of course,
you can't be having your own in-house investigations. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Okay.
No, you can't monitor yourself.
Oh, the church cannot be allowed to investigate itself.
Yeah.
They do not understand that the optics of that are a clear conflict of interest. I mean, it's they
not
act
just the optics,
in their own
it's a reality.
Right?
They're not going to be, they're not going to judge themselves. It's not just the optics; it's the fact that they've actually
they've been proven to be not
being held accountable.
Yeah, they're not. So Theodore McCarrick, who was once a cardinal in Rome, and was until recently the Archbishop. He's Archbishop Emeritus. He's retired of Washington, D.C. And this is something interesting. This is this article by J.D. Flynn. He's basically ruminating on what will happen to McCarrick, and it's all canon law. I just don't care about canon law. I mean, the Catholic Church wanted to buy a Caribbean island and basically exile pedophile priests there. I'd be putting them in a at the North Pole. That's not okay. Being somebody who doesn't believe in free will, I don't believe in punishment. But geez, I'd really like to put them into Antarctica. Not a Caribbean island. Anyway, there was this movie in 2014 called Calvary, which is where Jesus was crucified. And here, I'm going to read this. During a sobering scene in the film, an Irish priest, a pastor played by Brendan Gleeson, I don't care who that is, shares a brief moment of friendship with a young girl he has met as they both walk along the same stretch of country road. The moment is interrupted when a car screeches to a halt in front of them, and the girl's father emerges, yelling insults at the priest before driving away with his daughter. The priest is left standing alone on the road, not trusted enough for even an innocent conversation with a child. Wow, he doesn't get it. This guy doesn't get it. Mm-hmm. What would you do if a school teacher did this?
Right.
A public school teacher.
Like I said, a coach, or
this guy doesn't get it.
Scout leader or anything, right?
Yeah. This is no. This is not. You do not have. No priest should be allowed to be alone with any one child, or a bunch.
But you don't have to be religious to be a pedophile, right?
No, of course not.
Clearly. Yeah.
But
so when there's a known population that's X%.
It's very self-selected. That 6 to 7% is not the what the population percentage is anywhere near.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know. I think I looked it up once. It's something like 1% or something. It's smaller. So it's a concentration. It's self-selected. Public school teachers were once like that too, and we still have incidents of it happening, but they're found out really quickly and action is taken immediately. What has the Catholic Church done in terms of their protocols? I've never had anybody actually. One of these things that they should be enforcing in terms of their handling of conversations with children is don't walk down a road alone with a child. That's
and
it's reality.
Maybe it's tell your children don't be alone with an adult that's not. Well, I shouldn't even say not your family, because sometimes that happens to you, right? But try to make sure there's always people around you that you trust, right?
Yeah.
And more than one,
And be able to tell someone, no, we're not doing this, and then kick them in the nads.
Yeah, stranger danger was.
Don't be afraid to tell.
Anymore. Most crimes against children are not committed by strangers, not by any stretch. They're by someone the child knows.
Yeah, and they'll say things like, don't tell because I don't know, some of your family's going to kill me or something like that,
or
right?
They'll kill their family like that.
Yeah,
it's very threatening.
Yeah,
and they really take it seriously, these children, because
of course they're children.
Yeah, they're children, and we're hardwired. Well, not we, because we're not kids anymore. But children are hardwired to listen to adults. It's an evolutionary trait,
and they're told to.
Well, they're told to too. I mean, I was a bit of an asshole when I was a kid, and I said, well, I always ask, why did I have to do this? Doesn't make sense. Didn't make sense to me. And I don't like doing things when it doesn't. There's no logic to it. So anyway,
that actually saved me from a pedophile babysitter once. I would not do what he asked. I was just like, nope, and I was just stubborn. I was like, nope. He gave up.
Yeah, punch him in the nads, and then there you go. Let's see what the American sexual abuse crisis has also been a serious issue for Catholics, and has had an obvious cultural effect on the Church in the United States. Not just the United States, but its effect on the habits and attitudes of church-going Catholics has not been apparent or as visceral. And this is the part that I don't get. This is where people compartmentalize what's happening. Oh, it's not my priest. Or it's
and how do they know?
I don't know.
Not here, not in my backyard.
How do they, how do people justify going to Mass when knowing that this has been going on for, centuries actually, but it's just, I don't get it. And of course, there has been a measurable. He comes up with the Gallup polls. This is interesting. Gallup polls showed a sharp dip in American Mass attendance in 2002 and 2003, the years of the crisis came into full public view. But Mass attendance rates actually rose in 2004. Too bad. People were coming back. Maybe. Why? I guess. Actually, Catholic Masses are dreary things. It's all ceremony and the things that kids hate. How's it? I don't know.
I doubt it's the kids that want to attend church.
Some churches have Sunday school that the kids go to while the parents are attending Mass.
You have to be instructed in the rites of, you have to be consecrated, etc. Before you have your first communion, you have to pass some kind of a Catholic-y test.
There's something called catechism.
Yeah. And it's steadily declining since 2004 to levels at 1955. Yay! Mm-hmm. Maybe people are waking up to this.
Well, and it's also weird to watch too. I watched people get communion, and it was just weird.
Actually, it's very non-hygienic.
One time when I was a kid, my parents were always like, oh, if you want to go to church, you're free to do so. So I had a friend that was Catholic, and I went to Mass or whatever, right? And I'm like, oh, cool, they've got little snaps and something to drink. So I took that, and I told my mom, like, hey, they had snaps, and, and she's like, oh my God, right? Because that was completely inappropriate, apparently, but apparently they humored me because I was just a little kid, right?
Yeah. Did you chew it? You're not supposed to chew it.
Yeah, don't chew Jesus.
It's like, hey, snack, cool.
I'd be like,
drinks.
I'd be the guy in the.
No, I don't know if it's grape juice or what, but there was some little thing in a tiny little cup or whatever. But yeah.
I'd be the guy in the pews going, Nate, no backwash.
Well, when I watched it, I was asked if I wanted to, and they were calling it the body of Christ, and I was like, gross right out. So, no.
I think I was even too young to get the metaphor. It's like, hey, I get a cracker.
Well, I took it too literally. I'm like, this is disgusting. What is this?
I think the wine or grape juice or whatever served it. Remember those little Dixie cups you used to be able to get?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Tiny.
Yeah, it's not
thing.
enough to.
So it wasn't like people were like drinking from the same thing or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
That's.
So thank goodness, because my mom would have lost her shit if that had been the case too.
I'd be surprised if they don't still do that in the Catholic Mass.
Probably some of the more hardcore ones.
I'd be really surprised they didn't still do that. But it's funny because the wine's supposed to be literally the blood of Christ, and Irish priests were complaining that the alcohol, the legal limit for blood alcohol was lowered to 0.05 in Ireland because they have to drink all the sacrificial wine. They have to drink all the sacrificial wine once, because you can't. It's blood of Jesus. You can't let it go to waste. So they just get soused.
God, can't save it for
later. and I guess drive drunk. Like.
I thought they had like rectories for you to crawl.
They're totally justified now.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. But anyway, so apparently McCarrick is going to have a trial. He's already gone through. The Archdiocese of New York reached the conclusion that an allegation against McCarrick that he sexually abused a teenager was credible and substantiated. And that's the first phase. And they go on. There will be a trial. It hasn't been scheduled yet. And and what did they do? I don't know. Let's see. McCarrick is only facing canonical charges. And here we go with the canon law again. Canonical charges for one of the sexually abusive relationships he is alleged to have had, and some aspects of that case could make it difficult to try. I don't know. Most notably, the fact that the alleged victim was 16 at the time the abuse began, and therefore not considered a minor by the canonical standards. I mean, who cares about canonical standards?
Yeah, no kidding.
Who gives a shit?
Even if it's a 25-year-old, it would still be rape.
What's with these damn double standards? How is this even legal?
Well, the problem is that these events happened a long time ago, and they weren't reported, and they're only coming forward now because it's safe for them to come forward now. Let's see. I mean, the first people that came forward must have been absolutely terrified. This is their whole support system, the Catholic Church. They were and I'm sure they were shunned by the congregations once it became known that they had made allegations. Because nobody would believe it.
I don't know.
Is it
I think? Sorry, go ahead, Twyla.
Is it that it's gone past the statute of limitations that only canon law applies now?
Yeah, it's the only way anything can be done, I think.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I'd love to have a lawyer on. Talk about this.
Because I'm thinking, I guess it would depend on your family and your social circle, in terms of the church, whether people would believe you or not. Because I'm sure some of these did get reported, right?
Yeah, but if you...
Or people told their parents, and the parents were like, oh, no, that can't be the case, or, denial on that.
What happened in Boston was that the diocese would step in if it got reported to the police. And they would smooth things over, and it just went right under the rug.
And they moved the guys around. They shift them around.
It was a terrible... That's the thing that gets me, is the people that hit it. It's not... It was bad enough. The predatory priests are bad enough. But it was just tenfold worse because of the interference of bishops. And so far, there's only I think one bishop who has been tried for. I can't remember who it was, but tried for actually obstructing justice, so hiding the crimes.
And I think it's beyond just these molestations. There was residential schools, and they found the bodies of babies in these so-called single mother homes or whatever they're called, right?
Ireland, the
all over the world again. Well, here in Canada for sure with the residential schools.
Yeah, a lot of children died in residential schools. Those people are true survivors because their lives were actually in peril.
And single mothers that went to these places that they found like mass graves of infants and stuff like that. Like, wow. So this is a horrible thing to say, but at least the rape victims are here to attest to their story and tell us what's going on, right? Whereas there's so many people that we've lost that have no voice. And that's terrible,
All right, let's move on to, I love this. This is just amazing. Contraception fuels violence against women, papal theologian says. Seriously, I
based on
contraception is not for women, it's for men, Father Giertych told the Catholic Weekly newspaper of the Sydney Archdiocese. It makes men egoists, as if they're not already egoists, but anyway. It makes many of them degenerates, and we're seeing the consequences of that. So if you're not Catholic, you're a degenerate, apparently.
Of course. Just like if you're not a Muslim, you're an infidel.
So this guy said that government statistics in Italy revealed that a woman was murdered every 4 days from 2009 to 2011. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Italy is rather Catholic, isn't it? He said more than 80% of the perpetrators were sexual partners of the victims. I don't doubt this. It's really bad in Brazil. It wasn't until I want to say the mid-70s before it was actually a crime to murder your wife.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So we're talking another Catholic country, largely Catholic country.
Would you say that rape culture and misogyny might be prevalent in that situation? Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't. Yeah.
I'm just thinking comparatively.
They exist. They certainly exist. Certainly. Yeah. Even bizarre. I don't want to use the word toxic because it is so overused and it becomes some kind of like a buzzword that it just makes my skin.
Yeah, but kind of we need to re-own those words in a sense, right? Because they're just.
But it's.
Well, I don't even think we can anymore.
Yeah, I think it's so hard. I mean, like the word problematic. I mean, you know how I feel about its abuse. It's used now as a conversation stopper. I don't want to deal with it. Deal with the points you raised because your arguments are problematic. Well, that's bullshit.
Or even toss out anything. You're a racist. You're a white supremacist. You're a misogynist.
Absolutely. But you can't be a misandrist because that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I've actually had that told to me, and I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I think if you say that, you probably are a misandrist.
Well, there's that idea that if you're part of the marginalized culture that you
critical
can't
theories.
be. Yeah, you can't be. A woman can't be a misogynist because they're part of the minority, or underprivileged group.
Critical theories. The name critical theories is the same kind of branding that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea uses. It's the same kind
I could give another example. Critical theory is not equal to critical thinking.
Exactly. There's no critical thinking.
I think you've said it before me.
Yeah, I did.
But I've said it to a few. Yes. So give you credit, but I've said it to a few, other academics, and they're like, "Yep."
But they can't say it. Yeah. They can't speak it out loud. It's
that's exactly right.
It's the opinion that cannot be spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say it, and I do.
I can too.
Critical theories are completely lacking in critical thought.
I wouldn't like paint a broad brush kind of thing, but because I do think they offer some interesting insights and that kind of thing. But it's not critical thinking.
No, I don't think. No, not.
You know me, I'm the SJW of the three of us.
You're very kind. You're a much kinder person than I am to opinions which are, shall we say, problematic. You're much kinder.
Well, because I've kind of been trained to understand the theories behind them all and that kind of thing, and I don't think you should throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak, right? Because
I just want to throw out the academics.
Sorry?
I just want to throw out the academics that spew it.
But not all of it is there was a time when it generated interesting social questions and found interesting, looking through the world through a particular lens can give you interesting insights into that world. But if, again, I'll say it a million times, if that's the only lens you're looking at through the social phenomenon, then you've got a problem, because there's lots of lenses through which to view social phenomenon. And if you adopt your pet theory, then we're all biased to begin with.
Yeah, but this is bias confirmation, right? Everything is interpreted via a single lens.
Because anything can be sexist. Anything can be, I don't know, when you look at the world through the Marxist lens, anything can be attributed to, the proletariat and, that economical kind of thing, right? Anything like Freudian is Popper, Karl Popper, right? Made that same observation. They don't have predictive power, and they're over-explanatory in that they can explain any, social phenomenon. So if you're looking through the world at that one lens and not saying, okay, well, how else can I view the social world, right? You're going to have a problem.
Well, that's the thing. People in social justice latch on to things and do it in a way that's extremely overzealous. It becomes dogma, and they don't even question the premises of the point of view. They don't question that when they look through a lens. They don't look at the broader picture, and they really don't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, and I had a conversation with my parents last night about. Well, actually, it was today, and it was about Alex Jones being taken off, I don't know, YouTube and whatever the hell it was taken off of, right? And I fucking can't stand Alex Jones, but I've grown up in Alberta here, and I've known, ever since I was kind of aware of this kind of stuff, that there's been this kind of neo-Nazi underground thing in Alberta and Montana and that kind of thing, right? They've been driven underground, right? Mm-hmm. And
have you been to Red Deer?
No, but that's part of the whole scenario here in Alberta, right?
Okay, at City Hall, there's those rebel flags. Driving around everywhere, there's rebel flags. They show up at the schools here and have their protests about open borders, and there's plenty of out racists once you leave Calgary.
Yeah, but let them speak. Let them identify themselves, and because Twyla, I've grown up in this context where they've been driven underground, and now look what they've emerged to, right? If they'd been, allowed to speak all these years, we would have laughed at them and mocked them and all that kind of stuff, and now they've actually been empowered. So I don't think it's wise to shut down freedom of speech. Let them speak so we can mock them.
They are speaking.
Well, yeah, now, but, they haven't,
and if you look 20, at Proud Boys,
because they haven't had the social connections, right?
They weren't underground here that long. They've been out in my schools, in my face, the whole entire time I've lived here.
Okay,
so maybe it wasn't welcome so much in academia, but
here in Calgary. Here in Calgary, right?
They're out
they would shut the fuck
They
up.
always have been.
Yeah.
They're very proud of their views here. I mean, there's a reason I'm single. It's like everybody's racist out here. Or homophobic. They all hate gay marriage. They're all very proud of their views. I mean, and I get expected to be like that because I'm white. And when I don't agree with them, they're disappointed in me as an Albertan. So,
well, I'd be disappointed. I'd be like, are you fucking kidding? You're not a true Canadian. You're a fucking asshole. Right?
Yeah, just like I get told my biggest fault by someone I'm dating is that I'm not religious. Oh, wow. And of course, then I stopped dating them. I cannot find progressives around here, and when I do, they're a little tiny group, and they're trying to fight for some progress. Yeah. So once you step out of that academic bubble and out of that city bubble, or even if you were to get down to where there's white blue-collar people, especially oil workers, I'm sorry to say they are the worst. So
I can see that. Yeah.
I mean, I had to sit in my office and watch my manager of the company walk over to a window and start whining about somebody he wasn't even Islamic, he was Sikh. Oh, look at what this world's coming to, or this province, and blah blah blah. And then my coworker blabbering on and on about this girl that came in to collect her boyfriend's check, and she was Japanese, and like, oh, blah blah blah, Japanese and blah, immigrants. And I listened to it almost too much. It's just so frustrating.
But do you think 10 years ago that would have been acceptable discourse? Because I don't, maybe
it was then, it is now.
Okay. Because
they're the majority here. I'm the minority. I'm the one who needs to shut up because I'm offending them.
Yeah, I've certainly grown up in my bubble. Because I just think, like, people wouldn't have dared say shit that they're saying nowadays 10, teachers, 15, 20 years ago, right?
We're getting taller, and taught everybody that all the Jews are lying about the Holocaust, or they deserved it because they had all the wealth, and this is get out of the city.
How the hell is this anti-Semitism getting traction again?
Yeah.
It has been. It has been very popular in rural Alberta. It's always been alive here.
Because here it would just get shut down, right?
In a university, sure, but
no, even in the social situation. No, like,
show.
Even if I go to, I don't know, the gas station or something like that, and somebody's harassing the attendant, and they have, I'll tolerate it for so long because, we're going to let somebody defend themselves first. But God damn it, if you're being a goddamn asshole, I'm going to say, hey, I'm a customer and you're being an asshole. Get the fuck out of here because I'm in line next, and you need to,
What am I supposed to say to my manager, my coworker?
Well, exactly.
I'm the one who was told to shut up. They're like, oh, Twyla, we don't need to hear from you.
Wow.
Like, they know I don't like what they're saying, but they shut me down too. So
anyway,
it's pervasive. It always has been. It just.
I do think it's really dangerous.
You haven't been in the circles.
You're right, but I still think it's really dangerous to shut down bad ideas because they just get driven underground and they.
In the university, you don't get the oil guys in the university.
Everywhere.
Presentation about how the Japs are like stealing money or something. So,
like, I'm just appealing to how I grew up, knowing that there's always been this, neo-Nazi element here, and they've been a non-voice until recently.
Oh.
Because they've been different underground. Now they've got empowerment.
Maybe not in Calgary. Come out here. They've always been here.
Yeah. I know they've always been here.
I'm very white, and they're very surprised when they start yapping their freaking racism that I'm like, shut up. They're like, but you're white.
Wow.
Doesn't mean I'm a racist.
Anyway.
I'll try to shut them down. I can't adopt people for that.
We're on the home stretch. We're on the home stretch. Back to Catholicism. Contraception and IVF have damaged our society. Humanae Vitae Upidse offers a better... Is that right? Anybody know Pig Latin? Upidse?
Let me write this down.
Upidse.
You just got to take the A off the end and flip it.
Upidse. There we go. Humanae Vitae Upidse offers a better answer. Yeah, whatever. Both practices offered a technical fix for fertility with grave consequences. Oy vey. The contraceptive pill and IVF address different problems, which are really two sides of the same coin. Yeah, they're kind of opposites. They each offer a technical fix to control fertility. One is offered to women who don't want to be pregnant, and other to those who do. Wow. Pretty basic understanding. We've got it right.
Yeah.
What is wrong with the contraceptive pill is not the intention of family planning. Responsible parenthood is an obligation, but the means taken. Unlike periodic abstinence, which is better known as Catholic roulette, the pill makes a woman infertile, as if her fertility is a problem or even a disease.
Wait a minute.
Come on, you gotta agree with that.
What? Well, it does, but you can go off it, and then
you're not fertile within a day of not taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're back being. You can skip a day and be fertile again.
Catholic
I'm sorry,
program.
and some people get pregnant on it. So,
yeah.
Yeah, what's the effectiveness rate? 97, 98, 96? I don't know. It's not 100.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. You can go off it for one day and be fertile again.
You got to listen to this. It seeks to separate the unitive meaning of sexual union from the procreative meaning.
So?
Yeah, exactly. So. It means whatever you want it to mean, right?
Yeah, I can't think of how many times my ex-husband and I had sex just for fun until we actually planned to get pregnant, right? Yeah, good on us, yay!
For some reason, we have a sex drive.
Yeah.
And moreover, and this is terrible, some forms of hormonal contraception occasionally allow a human life, you mean a blastocyst, by the way, not a, to be conceived, but then prevent the embryo from implanting in the womb.
Oh, no. You know what? Monthly, thousands of eggs get flushed out.
A blastocyst is not a person, okay? We're not taking Old Yeller out behind the woodshed. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So.
And I'm sorry, Randy, that's a bad analogy because Old Yeller probably should have been, given the benefit of the right to die with dignity and been put down peacefully and asleep, right? That's what we would do now with our pets.
True. Yeah, that's true. I wasn't making an analogy with the humanist side of it.
I know.
was just making the analogy of the actual act.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a non-rabid Old Yeller. There we go. I can't think of a pop culture reference. The church's objections to IVF are similar. Infertility can be the cause of great suffering. Yes. So why would you stop people from alleviating that suffering? Okay, I know, redemptive suffering.
Suffering's, yeah.
But it is a tragedy that scientists have sought to adjust the problem by means of IVF. Oh, is it now? Okay. Just as contraception seeks union without the procreative meaning, so IVF seeks procreation without the union of the couple as one flesh. Yeah, but you can have sex and still be infertile,
Yeah, and you can implant your.
This is
there must be condoms in this somewhere. When do they talk about condoms?
I don't think they do that in here because
why? Because they put it on the man.
Yeah, but Humanae Vitae, which is Upidstay, led to significant advances in the realm of natural family planning. Natural family. What the hell is that?
Is that condoms?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's a rhythm method.
It separates conception from the couple's marital embrace. Both contraception and IVF have had grave consequences. Doesn't say what the consequences are. Happily, in the last 50 years, there has been great progress in finding alternatives. Humanae Vitae, which I have said before is Upidstay, led to significant advances in the realm of natural family planning. This has, in turn, generated a new approach to infertility. Okay. NAPRO, I guess that's short for natural. I don't know what's the pro. Anyway, technology combines fertility awareness with diagnosis and treatment of the underlying causes of infertility. That doesn't mean you can cure infertility. Does not replace or circumvent the marital act. Well, neither does IVF or contraception. But works by increasing the chances of sexual union being fertile. So what? It doesn't solve infertility. Oh well. NAPRO even has a comparable
Are they making that leap of logic, saying that a lot of this stuff leads to infertility, even though you can stop taking it or take it out and you can get pregnant like the next day?
It's like you're going to love your kid any less if it's you became pregnant via IVF. Are you? I'm interested in an answer.
They seem to be linking controlling when you have a child to having to get IVF. Are they?
Well, they're saying that if you have IVF, then then sex does not have a procreative meaning.
But
that's not why people, it's a reason for having sex, but there's other reasons for having sex, and there's
other reasons for getting IVF because you don't have to get it. You don't get infertile by
right.
This is such a
well. Okay, I asked the question: if you have a child via IVF, are you going to love that child any less than if it came through the Catholic Catechism accepted version of how procreation happens?
They're calling this artificial, so the child means less.
I want an answer to the question.
Oh,
would you?
We would give you, of course not. But what are they saying?
I think that's almost what's implied here.
Sorry, I missed the question. Can you repeat it?
The question is, would you love a child any less if it was conceived through in vitro fertilization?
Well, that's as ridiculous a question as whether you'd love a child as much if you'd adopted that child.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, in
fact, people who adopt children who make the actual effort probably, I wouldn't say they love them more, but sometimes.
Yeah, but you would, in that case, you would be missing the bonding that happens usually happens at the moment of birth. The release of
dopamine.
No, another neurotransmitter that starts with an O. That seals that relationship. It's a little bit different, but we're talking about.
That doesn't necessarily always happen with women.
I said usually. I said usually.
And sometimes it's a matter of establishing that bond over time.
Yeah.
Or sometimes some women just don't establish that bond too.
That's a different situation. I just want to know about the IVF.
Well, their ridiculous answer seems to be no. Of course you love it less. It's artificial.
Right? I don't know what Humanae Vitae actually says, but let's face it, it's going to be anti-abortion, it's going to be anti-choice, it's going to be anti-anything other than
logic.
Than birth control is through Catholic roulette, and that's it.
Yeah.
Which is not very good. It doesn't have a very good record. What do we got else? Oh, Catholic hospitals. Okay, now we're back on the abortion issue. Catholic hospitals will ban abortion in Ireland. Remember, the Irish had it was after that unfortunate incident with that young woman, whose name escapes me at the moment.
The Hindu woman.
Yes, who died.
She knew she was dying if her dead child that was in her wouldn't be aborted. Be
aborted, and caused a national uproar in protest against this Catholic nonsense. And they had a referendum, and they voted to get the prohibition against abortion out of their constitution. Now, please get rid of that damn blasphemy law. And now the the Irish Prime Minister said that they would, every hospital that received public funds would have to abide by the new laws. And of course, the Catholic bishops are all up, they've got their underwear twisted all up, and are saying, no, we're not going to abide by this. And now Catholic hospitals are saying that they're not going to abide by this. In the Code of Ethical Standards for Healthcare. Now, this is the Catholic codes, so you can understand there might be a little bit of suffering in there. It's okay for suffering. It bans contraception, gender reassignment surgery for transgender people, crisis pregnancy counseling with information on abortion, and counseling for families going through a fatal fetal abnormality diagnosis that lists termination as an option. So these are the things that aren't in the Catholic Code of Ethical Standards, which means to me, do the opposite of what the Pope says, please. That's going to get you a long way in life. So it also questions the ethics of tests during pregnancy. So to any genetic testing on IVF, well, of course, IVF is out too, right? Mm-hmm. So that any way of identifying a fatal fetal abnormality is questioned.
So they're going to let the fetus die, or the embryo fetus die, then they're going to let the woman die?
Yeah, that's what they want. And I'm cheering this guy on. I cannot remember his name now. Radkar, isn't it? Anyway, the Irish Prime Minister. Yeah, I'm cheering him on.
Okay.
Go, man.
Okay.
I can't remember. Radkar is his last name. So go. End in one country. I wish we could do that here, but I don't think Justin Trudeau has the guts. End Catholic hospitals and their reign of terror in Ireland. Get rid of them.
You know who we should have on? Michael Nugent from Atheist Ireland.
Yeah, they have done a long time ago.
Amazing work.
Yeah, we should, because get an update on this. It's time for this association between healthcare and religion to go the way of the dodo. I mean, intellectually, it's been gone for a long time, but there's this I don't know, it's part of our subconscious in society, not mine, but in a lot of other people's, it's a religious thing to do, healthcare. No, it's not. It's a humanist thing to
Ireland's come a long way.
Yeah, well, they actually went backwards for a while, though. They went backwards for a while, though.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're coming back out of that. I mean, the blasphemy law is, maybe 10 years old in Ireland?
Yeah, that's right. They imposed them when they didn't even have them on the books. That's, yeah. So
it's a fairly
Atheist Ireland is challenging now, obviously, too.
They've got
right?
There was a promise of a referendum on that, too, but it's never happened. So, we should get
Michael Nugent back. Yeah.
And unless you think that I'm totally against everything the Catholics do, though, that's largely true. I'm pretty anti-Catholicism. I'm not anti-Catholic. I'm anti-Catholicism. There's a difference. Here. This guy. Oh, not this one. This is a guy who said, why, despite everything, I am still a Catholic. And I'm like, yeah, no. I'm not going to... Let's go to the chase on the last story. The Vatican changes the catechism teaching on the death penalty and calls it... I don't know what inadmissible is supposed to mean here. I mean, it's not like we're in a jury trial. I think they mean it's unacceptable. I think that was a mistranslation from Latin. But I mean, it only took how many centuries to figure this out? That the death penalty is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Finally, you've joined the humanists on one thing. One. Count it one. don't hold your breath for anything else, any changes on contraception or pro-choice or any other things that have allowed us to instead of being in abject poverty, rise to affluence in this country or in the West anyway.
I think it's very interesting that you use the word humanism, because we don't often use that in our podcast. We identify as atheists, kind of prior to that, but I think we take for granted the fact that we're all humanists. Maybe we try to realize that in different ways, but we need to talk about that more, I think,
Yeah, it's kind of, it's one of those where it seems fairly narrow in definition, but it's kind of
well, if you look at the Humanist Manifesto, you can see it's actually fairly broad if you agree to some of these principles. You don't have to agree to all of them, but
it's not like Catholicism where you either agree with it all or you're not Catholic, which means most people that it calls as Catholic are not Catholic, but hey, they don't realize it. But you know what? I gotta say, look, that's a step in the right direction. Being against the death penalty. After killing people like burning Giordano Bruno at the stake. And killing in brutal ways, in incredibly painful ways. They were very inventive. The plum? You know what the plum is? Have you ever heard of the plum?
I don't know that I know the name, but I suspect I've seen illustrations or something of that.
Have. It's the device that they either stick in the anus or in the vagina and screw it, and it widens. So it stretches connective tissue.
Well, it'll kill you, right?
No, that won't kill you.
Slow, painful death.
But being burnt at the stake will.
That's a little quicker.
Yeah. Well, maybe. I don't know if it's not quick enough. And it's not...
Being ripped in half over days and days and days. They're both obviously horrific, but wow, the torture devices that humans have invented over the millennia.
The Dutch had being broken on the wheel. That's where every bone in your body was broken and then intertwined in the spokes of a wagon wheel.
Yeah.
Have you seen an Iron Maiden, a real one?
Yep. That'd be
pretty brutal.
No, I don't think I have. What is it?
It's
like a sarcophagus.
And then it's got spikes.
Yeah.
And they shut the door on you and impale you.
Jesus. Yeah.
But you're standing up when it happens. So you just kind of hang in there until you're dead.
Yeah.
But at least that's fairly quick.
Depending on where they purposely put them so it wouldn't hit your heart or your brain or anything.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I have a picture of one from when I visited a museum. I should post it.
Anyway, that's this is got to be one of, if not one of the longest episodes we've ever done.
That's true. 2.5 hours. Yeah.
We didn't even get to the Jeff Sessions.
No, we didn't.
That's true too. Yeah. And we've had nobody give us any feedback. Nobody's watching us tonight.
It's a holiday weekend, so
yeah,
that's true. People are trying to dry out from the party. I spent the whole day down in the Cardston region taking pictures.
Oh,
nice.
So, old buildings and stuff. Not as many as I was hoping for. I was trying to find ghost towns.
And
I didn't really find any.
There's that one like toward Banff, right?
Yes. I didn't go up that way, but yeah.
That's a bit of a drive.
Connect you with
a bunch, actually,
somebody on my Facebook that knows where they all are.
Yeah. GPS coordinates, and we're taking... It sent me into the middle of a field, and I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah. I'll get you connected with this person I know.
I'll check it out on if I get coordinates, and I'll check it out on Google Earth before I go. I did get to St. Stephen's Catholic Church, which is kind of an odd thing to have in around Cardston, which is very Mormon.
That's a dry town, right?
It's a dry county.
Okay, yeah.
Whole county.
They still have those?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Like I said, get out into rural Alberta, you'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
I remember I was working in Chicago for summer when I was at university, and I was taking care of the guy I was working for his house for a weekend and taking care of the cat. And it was in a dry county, and you should see all the liquor stores right on the edge. It's like surrounded by liquor stores.
Bunch of bars too, I'm suspecting.
It's come on. Being a dry county doesn't stop anybody from drinking.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the drinking and driving rates.
I was just thinking, if you restrict that kind of thing, you're going to have a bunch of impaired drivers going to the local. I've driven through towns where they've got like this one in BC, right? They've got this one big bar, and it's God, people are leaving there drunk and blah blah blah.
Can't bike home. We got to drive.
Yeah. It's not like they have buses or public transport or even cabs.
We don't anymore. Greyhound's gone.
Yeah.
Poof. Anyway, so I'm working on getting some guests. Both Christine and I are, and we're trying to nail down dates, and so I'll post them as they become known. So then I think we should probably end this since time to go to bed.
We can talk about Jeff Sessions another time.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, that's true. Especially when it gets formed. I think maybe we should just wait till they form this.
That's true.
See some fallout.
Although, Twally, you said you had gathered a list of the principles. Yeah. Can we do another 5 minutes and talk about it now?
What's that?
There's 20 principles enforced by this Religious Liberty Task Force, and
this is the Jeff Sessions.
Some of them make sense, and some of them I'm like, they seem to contradict each other.
Nobody ever said these people were great thinkers.
Right.
Yes.
So, of course, these ones were predictable. The freedom of religion is a fundamental right of paramount importance, expressly protected by federal law. That's so broad. That's number one. Number two, free exercise of religion includes the right to act or abstain from action in accordance with one's religious beliefs. Of course, that becomes the bakers and the doctors that don't want to provide services.
Or the child sacrificers.
Freedom of religion extends to persons and organizations.
Yeah, it's the signs. I bet you will see it. What? Signs in English, actually, but not the German. Judenverboten. No Jews.
I know
that's the signs that were in stores in 1930s Germany.
German verboten. Is that what you said? German verboten? Juden verboten. I don't know what Juden means, but I know what verboten is. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Jews forbidden.
Okay.
But now they're extending this freedom of religion to persons and organizations. But then, this is weird, Americans do not give up their freedom of religion by participating in the marketplace, partaking of the public square, or interacting with the government.
Oh, so you can, you get a pass if you're a goddamn bigot and you want to spew your shit about, I don't know, LGBTQ community or whatever, right?
So you can do that in...
We can do that here. We've got the same laws here that protects, religious bigotry essentially from other forms of hate speech. So if you want to say, hey, let's stone the homosexuals, if you can appeal to a holy book, you get off scot-free. Whereas if you, as a secular person or something like that, say that kind of shit, you're going to get punished.
Yeah. Double standards.
Exactly.
This one I don't understand. Government may not restrict acts of abstentions because of the beliefs they display.
Oh, I guess that would mean if you want to take the knee at a game or whatever, right? So acts of abstention would mean, I would think not like refraining from participating in the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem. That's what I'm taking it as.
Some of these are broad.
Yeah.
Number 6, government may not target religious individuals or entities for special disabilities based on their religion.
Well, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I don't understand what they're referring to.
Yeah, disabilities, that's an odd word.
How about in the case of Trump, it'd be mental disabilities?
Well, there we go. Yeah, okay, good point.
So number 7, government may not target religious individuals or entities through discriminatory enforcement of neutral, generally applicable laws.
That seems reasonable on the surface.
But what do they mean?
Well, they
need
Christians,
to give examples here.
Yeah, what they mean is Christians.
Yeah.
I mean, the wording sounds reasonable, but...
Yeah, but they're going to say, we didn't mean for it to apply to other religions.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they do.
But number 8, government may not officially favor or disfavor particular religious groups.
I agree with that.
So that seems to contradict some of the other things they put in here. Government may not interfere with the autonomy of religious organizations. So autonomy, what does that mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to sacrifice babies, I think the government ought to intervene in something like that.
Yes.
Or if you're starving your child.
Yeah, or doing faith healing.
Something about 1993. Number 10. The Religious Freedom Restoration Act of 1993 prohibits the federal government from substantially burdening any aspect of religious observance or practice unless imposition of that burden on a particular religious adherent satisfies strict scrutiny. That's wordy.
Oh, I interpreted that to mean, no religion should go unscrutinized except for Muslims, shall we say, right? Islam?
Yeah.
So now 11, they've shortened their organization to RFRA. The protection extends not just to individuals, but to organizations, associations, and at least some for-profit corporations, which is a repeat of another one I just read.
Mm-hmm.
RFRA number 12 does not permit federal government to second guess the reasonableness of religious belief.
Well, that's a load of crap. Because again,
right?
Faith healing.
Colanders, baby. We're just going. Yep. Yeah. Every American should wear a colander. Every American atheist.
Okay, so if you think it's unreasonable, tough shit. Number 13, a government action substantially burdens an exercise of religion under RFRA if it bans an aspect of an adherent's religious observance or practice, compels an act inconsistent with that observance or practice, or substantially pressures the adherent to modify such observance or practice. Does this go for Muslims that have to do their prayers how many times a day?
I don't even understand what that means.
A governmental action substantially burdens an exercise.
Yeah, you can't stop somebody from praying, I guess.
It bans an act. Okay.
Well, I just hope secular law overrides that, because, that would also prevent, like I said, like faith healing. Or, secular law is going to take precedence over certain things.
Yeah, like not taking your child to a doctor.
Yeah.
And in lieu of, prayer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand number 14 either. The strict scrutiny standard applicable to RFRA is exceptionally demanding. Does that seem like another...
That's a bunch of fucking sophistry.
It just seems to contradict some other things.
Yes. It doesn't make sense.
So
you're going to, you're trying to guarantee religious freedom.
Scrutiny standard.
Yeah, you're going to guarantee religious freedom, and yet you're going to put them under strict scrutiny. What?
Yeah, but you can't second guess the reasonableness of a belief.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be interesting how this pans out.
Number 15, RFRA applies even where religious adherence seeks an exemption from a legal obligation requiring the adherent to confer benefits on third parties.
Okay, I'm guessing that has to do with Sharia law and the fact that they don't want, Sharia law to be, I don't know, like, I know here in Canada there's certain, what do you call it, like Judaistic law that pertains to businesses and stuff like that, but doesn't supersede secular things, right? But they don't charge interest, so there's, I guess a case to be made. So I think what they're saying there is that Islamic law will not rule the nation, is kind of what I'm guessing. What do you think?
But of course,
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
It applies even where religious adherent seeks an exemption from a legal obligation requiring the adherent to confer benefits on third parties.
Okay, so I'm guessing that would...
I don't know. Unless it's like tithing.
Well, no, I'm thinking...
I'm trying to...
I think that's, you must follow secular law and not Islamic law, right? Because Christian law generally kind of comports with secular law in the U.S. or is purported to be, right? I think a lot of this, a lot of this seems to be based on anti-Muslim bigotry in a very coded kind of language, That's what I'm kind of reading into it. And you know how much I hate the word Islamophobia. I think it's fucking bullshit, nonsense, manufactured word to shut down conversation. But I see it underlying some of this stuff, eh?
And then 1964, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, as amended, prohibits covered employers from discriminating against individuals on the basis of their religion. So does this apply to people who will deny you a marriage certificate?
Only if you're a Christian, I'm sure.
As amended, so you're prohibits covered employers from discriminating. What do they mean in this context?
Covered employers. What the hell is a covered employer?
I don't
from
know.
Discriminating. Again, that seems to. It seems this one says you can't.
Yeah.
If you're a covered employer, you can't discriminate. However, up above to say they can discriminate.
But what the hell does covered employee mean, or employer mean? It's an undefined term.
Yeah, this contradicts the free exercise of religion and includes the right to act or abstain from action in accordance with one's religious beliefs. So that was 16. 17, Title VII's protection extends to discrimination on the basis of religious observance or practice as well as belief, unless the employer cannot reasonably accommodate such observance or practice without undue hardship on the business. That sounds reasonable?
It does on the surface, yeah.
18. The Clinton Guidelines on Religious Exercise and Religious Expression in the Federal Workplace provide useful examples for private employers of reasonable accommodations for religious observance and practice. So they're going to include this Clinton Guidelines. 19. Religious employers are entitled to employ only persons whose beliefs and conduct are consistent with the employer's religious precepts.
Oh, they
that
got those covenants.
A human rights violation here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight up.
And then 20, as a general matter, the federal government may not condition receipt of a federal grant or contract on the effective relinquishment of a religious organization's hiring exemptions or attributes of its religious character. Huh?
Can you repeat that?
As a general matter, so that's whatever, the federal government may not condition receipt of a federal grant or contract on the effective relinquishment of a religious organization's hiring exemptions or attributes of its religious character.
Does that? So I guess that means there could be like public funding for anti-abortion type things, or they can't discriminate based on the ideology of a religion. So you're, I guess, free to access government grants regardless of whether you're conducting your mandate in a secular manner or a religious manner, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, they're saying you can't condition the receipt of a grant.
Yeah. So
on the effective relinquishment of a religious organization's hiring exemptions? Relinquishment.
I guess that would, I don't know, give cover to something like Ken Ham's fucking Ark Park or whatever the fuck, right? I don't know, because that's so strangely worded that it makes no sense. Which is precisely the, purpose of that kind of language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you can, it seems to build on 19, I think. You can restrict your employment to people of your belief, thereby not hiring others. Mm-hmm. And then you can't condition the receipt of federal grant or contract.
Because you're discriminating against in your hiring practices. This, I think, how we would as Canadians say it.
Hiring assumptions or attributes of religious character. That's weird.
Yeah.
I hope they give some examples of these things.
Well, it's bizarre because they started their religious office of freedom first, and then they warned us about that, right? Mm-hmm. We started ours and got rid of ours, and now they're starting their shit up again, right? Weird.
Bizarre. So the administrator has not shown attention to the political claims of other religious groups. However, Sessions pointed out that the Department of Justice Protection of Religion also protects non-Christians, listing cases in which the government sued against local zoning laws in order to allow religious groups, including Jews, Muslims, and Hindus, to build the places of worship.
How interesting that they had to explicitly talk about Christianity.
Yeah. That, and yet you can... What's a religious employer?
I guess something like Hobby Lobby.
So you can discriminate against other people when hiring, but you can't discriminate against them building a temple.
Well, in the case of Hobby Lobby, they refuse to, I guess, provide health care benefits pertaining to reproductive things, like birth control and that kind of thing, right? So that would, I guess, further solidify that judgment, I suppose.
Yeah, they seem picky on when they're going to be inclusive and then not inclusive.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of this is like giving a free pass to religious bullshit.
But they're making concessions. You can build a Hindu place of worship. However, we're not going to, hire a Hindu person if they're not part of this established religious company.
What a load of shit. Was there any objection to building a Hindu temple in the first place?
I
don't think so.
Think so.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, it's bedtime. Bedtime for Bonzo.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Randy, for tolerating our extended discussion.
So we'll try and 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
That was almost
try to bring back examples.
Episodes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what unfolds and revisit this.
Yeah. I'll send the link.
Interesting to see if it. Yeah. Right now, it's really only just an announcement, so we'll see what happens. What the actual what they put forward, whether it's constitutional or not, is going to have to be tested in the courts.
Yeah, sure enough. Yeah.
Okay, so good night, everybody, and have a good week. It's going to be a hot one. Yay.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Do the outro.
Yeah, I'm just hitting the button now, but it's taking a while. Come on. What's it doing? Come on. Oops. You've been listening to the Legion of Reason diversion coming to you from Alberta, Canada. If you enjoyed this episode, consider